い、皆様お疲れ様です。次のゲームはロストジャッジメント裁かれざる記憶。カテゴリー any% easy となっております。実はこちらのゲーム本日解説者の方いらっしゃらないので、もしストーリーだけでもわかる方いらしたら助けていただけると大変嬉しいです。私先日この前作になりますジャッジアイズクリアしまして、すごくストーリーも良かったので、プレイ性も楽しかったので、今回とても司会の方も楽しみにしてまいりました。一緒に楽しんでいただける方いらしたら、チャット欄で説明していただくだけでも大変ありがたいので、よろしくお願いいたします。今回のイベント、スウェーデンで開催されているチャリティアリティイベント ESAW2022 年の公認ミラー配信を行っているわけですけれども、ちょっとね、先ほどチャット欄でも出てましたけれども、ロストジャッジメントの前作、ジャッジアイズが、実はちょっとね、アルツハイマーに関することがキーワードになっているような作品だったかなと思います。詳しくは申し上げませんけれども、私の身近にも結構アルツハイマーのことで、患者さんがいたりとか、私自身もアルツハイマーなので家族性の因子があって、やっぱり怖かったりとかしますし、アルツハイマー以外にもスウェーデンのアルツハイマー財団は、認知症全体扱っているんですけれども、えっと結構、アルツハイマーよりも数は少ないけれども深刻な認知症なんかもあるそうですので、本当にこの研究が進んでくれることを祈っております。ということで、そろそろゲームスタートすると思います。今回の奏者、レベルドラゴン95さん、パーソナルベストは2時間36分32秒となっております。2時間30分ぐらいのプレイになるかと思います。タイマースタートいたしました。それでは2時間半ほどよろしくお願いいたします。
who runs a detective agency after he stopped being a lawyer. So we're just going to go through the short tutorial section of basically a bunch of mechanics that we barely.
はい、ゲームしましたけれども、これはまだ新宿の八神探偵事務所付近ですね。ちょっと私、この間クリアしたばっかりなので、懐かしい風景が広がっております。
When we actually get to the second where it does save time, but it saves quite a large margin. So this is actually a tailing section. This is the only one we have to do in this speedrun. In the first Judgment game, there's loads of these you have to do.
最初のミッションは追跡ですね。これも確か前回1作目よりはだいぶ尾行がの仕組みが変わっていたかなという感じがいたします。パーセンテージがこれが100になると失敗になるんでしたっけね。結構1作目この尾行ミッションがストレスが溜まったのでかなりやりやすくなっている印象があります。
Then when he gets up this ramp here, he'll start running towards the goal, and once he starts running, I can actually do the sprint to where I need to go, which is right here. Then I can get here before he even gets there. Alright, cool. Alright, so now we've got to take a photo of these guys. This is just another bit of the tutorial. Basically taking evidence photos whenever we need to.
なるほど。彼女がぼったくられてて、で、風俗のお仕事に売られそうになっているのかな。それでその彼氏を追跡するという話で、じゃあこのコウスケくんですか。これはこの彼氏を追いかけてるっていう感じですかね。
There we go. Alright, so now we have to wait for this guy to move a little bit. So we're actually gonna like stop him from doing some stopping.
ジャッジアイズ私見ていてすごく驚いたのが、やっぱり俳優さんと声優さんどちらがいい悪いじゃなくって単純にこう演技の仕方全然違うのかなっていうのをすごく感じて、俳優さんの間の作り方とかがすごくドラマみたいに本当に演じてらっしゃるなっていうふうに思った記憶があります。ぜひあれですね、吹き替えでも試してみたい感じがしますね。
Thankfully, after this, we actually get into some combat, which is more what the Yakuza games are known for. So,
新宿ならね、キムタクいるの当然じゃないかな。有名人いそうだし。
Because tailing section guys actually, as I said, listen for audio as well. So I need this guy to be far enough away before I can like jump over the sign here.
今わざと待っていたのは彼の視界に追跡対象の視界に入らないように、壁越えをするためにわざと距離を取っていたというふうに奏者さん今おっしゃっていました。
Alright, he's going to do a little bit of walking. He's going to stop there, then he's going to turn the corner in a second. There he goes, and then we get to run all this way. There we go. Now that's the end of the tailing section. So, another thing that the Yakuza games are pretty known for is having really annoying combat tutorials. Luckily, in this game, we can just completely skip the tutorials. We still have to do the fight, but we don't have to do the requirements of the tutorials. Skip through all the text.
龍が如くシリーズ、このバトルチュートリアルちょっとめんどくさいことが多いんですよねっていう話をされてたんですけれども、確かあれですよね、バトルスタイルが前作では 2種類あったのが、こちらでは3種類に増えていたりするので、その辺の使い分けなんかをこの辺のチュートリアルでしっかり覚えなきゃいけないっていうところがあったかなと思います。おかしいな、私の動かしてたキムタクに比べるとものすごいかっこいいんですけど。
We don't really get much use out of that one. So yeah. Sadly, we have a second half of the tailing section before we can actually move on, but luckily this bit's really short, so... This guy goes into this car park here, and for context of why we're tailing him, basically he's been taking money from women to go and gamble, and then basically begging them for more money, saying that he needs it for paying specific debts and other things, and then he just goes and gambles the money away again. And
今、奏者さんがこの状況を説明してくれてますけれども、ギャンブルに使うお金を彼女にこうせびりまくってる男がいるんで怪しいから確認してくれっていう感じで追跡してますということを今おっしゃっていました。
While I'm getting to the end of this chase section, tail section, Tony, if you've got anything you want to talk about or say, please feel free to go ahead now.
I appreciate it, Rebel. We are, of course, raising money for Alzheimer's Fonden. Alzheimer's Fonden is the Swedish fundraising organization focused on Alzheimer's disease and other dementia-related diseases.
キムタクなんか映画でもちゃんとあれですよね、項目ありますよね。八神さんの項目もウィキペディアにあったりしたんですけど、キムタクもちゃんとあったりしてびっくりしました。
All donations, subs, and bits.
これでミコミッション完了です。
Feel free to keep those donations coming.
Cool. So now we get into some investigation mode stuff. So this is something that you do if you.
ここからはいろいろと検証モードに入っていきます。
And then right afterwards, we get introduced to another new mechanic that they introduced into this game, which is the parkour.
なるほど。コウスケ君の入ったビルに潜入する方法を今探しているんですね。
Very much in a Dragon Engine style, which means it is very janky and will break on you sometimes for no real reason.
確かにさっきこういうのを見ましたね。
Shenanigans can happen where controls don't work or the camera messes up or sometimes you just fall off for no real reason. So just
弁護士も考古学者も体が資本ですから、
okay,
これくらいできて当然じゃないでしょうか。
As I said, shenanigans. So now we're gonna don't get on that again, Yagami. Go. Let's go over here. Up here.
You hanging in there, buddy?
Alright. So the first tutorial I actually did where I used Tiger to fight all the enemies, that was actually the crane tutorial. Meant to teach you about how AoE combat works, and I just did it with the combat style that's meant to be for one-on-one combat because it's just that good. So now this is the Tiger tutorial. The Tiger tutorial is incredibly simple. It's just beat up two guys. Alright, two more dudes here. Oh yeah, and shoutouts to the music in this game. It's just actually fantastic. Oh, thanks, Yagami. There we go. So you can normally do that in one combo if Yagami faces the right direction when he does his second charge tip, but he didn't really face the right way there.
結構いろいろね、八神さんやりたい放題やるんですけれども、通報されないなっていうのはちょっと思ったりしましたね。まあ前回は相手がヤクザだったので。しかしやっぱりアクション上手い人がやるとかっこいいですね。私がやった時のキムタクこんなかっこよくなくすごく容量悪かったんですけど。見つからないように鍵をゲットして外に出ます。
Wait here for a second. There we go. Open that.
私が動かしたヤゲミさん、前作ですけれども、一番強かったのは横に転んで、転がってから起きる時のアクションが一番強かったです。
This is lockpicking. This is another
おかしいな、こんなにかっこいいヤガミさん初めて見るんだ
This
け
game
ど、
you do it twice, which is right here.
私がやってたヤマギさんの中身、キムタクじゃなかったんですかね。
They tutorialize something that you only do once, basically.
城島さんとかだったのかな。
So now this is a takedown after we throw the coin. So the coins are used as distractions. There's another distraction.
今、コインを投げて、見張りの注意をそらして、後ろから気絶をさせます。ここほぼメタルギアソリッドとか思い出しますね。後ろからこう。
Distracting to get through that. Right, so the reason we were heading to the tatami room here is because that's where Kosuke was hanging out and doing all of his gambling. So now we're actually going to punch Kosuke for stealing people's money.
そうです。首絞めただけで殺せないから大丈夫です。
To the left or the right, and depending on which direction he goes, depends on what you do.
そして、コウスケさんとのコウスケ君との軽いボスバトル。
And then do the heat move. So if he goes to the left, you actually don't need to do the
決
heat
まりましたね。
move too much because you get max heat in the next
なんか足の使い方が前作よりもすごい綺麗な気がするんですけど、
something that they introduced in the first Dragon Engine game, and it's very, very good.
さらに、取り巻きだった、町のチンピラとの戦いになります。まあね、人間床に転がったりぶつかったぐらい死にませんのでね、心を浄化して、気持ちを入れ替えていただきましょう。
That's basically how broken Tiger can be. It can just blow through enemies, and in this game, when enemies get knocked back into each other, when they ragdoll into each other, they actually do damage.
今度は
boxes of damage. So normally what I'm trying to do
追いかけるチェイスモード
make sure they
ですね。
fly back into each other.
この辺のマップも本当に前作と同じような感じがしてとっても懐かしい。
You have to do these right, or you do lose a lot of time.
これも確かシステムが変わっていますよね。前回は一定のところまで、
But all it is make sure you
振り切られずに走ればクリアだったかと思いますが、今回は体力を、先に
same every time. So
ゼロになった方が負けというか、相手の体力をゼロにしたら無事にミッション完了、こちらがゼロになってしまったらミッション失敗というような形に変更されています。このあたり全体にやっぱり前作よりシステムがストレスなくなった作りになってるなという感じしますね。
That means he's preparing to throw something at me, which is always X. And at the end of this alleyway here, we have to choose to either go left or right. You just have to make sure you follow where the guy you're chasing went. So we're going to go to the left. Dodge one of them again.
何かを投げてきたので避けましたが、これで体力相手をゼロにしてチェイスが完了しました。
Which are very prevalent in the first Judgment story, which is all the people at the Genda Law office.
地面に落ちているものでも回復できるんですけど、物食べて回復もできるんですね。自分でやるとき覚えておきます。下手くそなので。最後の分岐のところですね。逆方向だと失敗になる。なるほど。
Alright, so we're going to go in here. Skip a couple of cutscenes. Right, so yep, talk to Genda. Genda here used to be your sensei.
牛丼を耐えれば銃の傷も治っちゃう。前作はね、銃の傷は致命傷で治らないデバフがかかりましたけれども、それもなくなったんですね。ディーライが完了して、かつて所属していた父と慕う源田先生の、そんなとこから出ちゃうの？源田先生の事務所に行きました。右側が、相棒の海藤さんですね。シェイディーバーっていうのはこれ日本語ですとぼったくりバーでしたか？皆さん非常にお行儀が悪くていらっしゃるので、海藤さんと一緒に、ちょっとお勉強タイム。
Normally there are heat moves that you can do, but if you hold the camera button, which is LT, it just completely deactivates them. So during each fight is what I'm doing.
モータルアクション完登ができるようになったんですね、今回は。消費者保護法の、勉強をしていただきましょうということで、バトルを完了し、
Yep, so that is the first part of the trial where I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. This is the hardest part of running any Yakuza game, is remembering all the names of the characters. Where am I going? That's where I'm going. Got to remember where I got to go as well. Alright, so we're going to make a quick stop here at the Ebisu Pawn, because there's actually equipment in this game, and equipment's very important for increasing our damage early on before we actually buy the attack boost. So we're actually going to quickly stop in here, buy a item in here.
こちらでアイテムを買うというんですけれども、
Really doesn't affect our money route in
一作目って装備の概念なかったんですけど、これも新しいシステムですかね。杉浦君は前作で仲間になってくれた、パルクールのうまいアクション、パルクールのうまい仲間だった子が探偵会社を立ち上げたという知らせが来たんです。ありがとうございます。杉浦君と確かつくもさんが探偵事務所を仲良く立ち上げたっていう話でしたよね。つくもさんも、一緒にこういろいろと手伝いをしてくれる感じでした。横浜でもいわゆる元町の一個手前伊勢崎町のあたりですね。実際に横浜伊勢崎町もこういう感じの商店街というのがあったかなと思います。中華街のすぐ近くですね。
So something about that as well, that fight spawn was chasing me. Because that's a loading trigger at the end, you actually can normally, in most cases,
不良学生に絡まれてしまったので、ちょっと教育的指導をしたいと思います。
I missed the dodge. Right, so something I'll be trying to go for throughout the run is, I didn't mean to do that. When you finish attacks where you charge,
なるほど。お店の人に悪い態度をとってたんですね。
So dodge cancelling is a big part of actually doing.
私、横浜出身なんですけど、こういうレンガ造りの建物だったりってすごく横浜らしくて、見ていていいなっていうふうに懐かしく感じます。まあね、キムタクに指導されたら学生も従いますよね。
Right, so we're actually in Yokohama, which is a city that got introduced in Yakuza 7, or Yakuza Like a Dragon, as it's more commonly known. And in this city, some characters from the first Judgment, Tsukumo and Sugiura, actually set up a detective agency. Oh, there we go. And we're basically in town to help them out with the job at the school. So while Tsukumo compares bullies to cavemen, Tony, if you've got anything you need to say, please feel free to go ahead now.
I appreciate that, Rebel. We actually have a $20 donation.
奏者さん、先ほど横浜龍が如く7で、導入されたマップですということをおっしゃっていました。龍が如く7よりもこちらの方がいけないところが若干あるんでしたかね。高校のいじめの調査があったんですね。それでそのいじめの調査をするということで、これから学校に行く感じでしょうか。これは先生かな
？Additional glitches that hadn't made it into the run. So if you'd like to see that goal met, feel free to put some donations.
なるほど、つくもさんがいじめがなぜ起こるかを説明してらした。つくもさんもね、引きこもりされてたりとかね、結構こう苦しい思いをされた過去がありそうな感じしますけど、今スケートボードが見えましたね。このアクションは2からですよね。さっき指導した生徒たちの高校でいじめが起きていた。ありがとうございます。チャット欄、助けていただいて大変助かります。
One thing you have to be careful of around here is the cars will hit you, they do not care, and they just lose you time. But if you get lucky and you ollie at the right timing, you can just go over them. Alright, so one of the reasons why he wants the doll is because he doesn't want to buy it from... Oh, I don't know what happened there. Because he doesn't want to buy it from...
ポールの上に乗ったりとかものすごく綺麗なアクションしてますね。
So we're going to punch the nasty man real quick. Charge that, dodge, and then use the EX move. So that's a dodge cancel right there. You can dodge out of it, and because I dodged towards him, I can then do the heat move as fast as possible.
やっぱりこれ技増えてますか？前作よりも。この転売屋さんの決め技すごいかっこいいなと思ったんですけど。
Right, now we need to go here. And you can skip the fade out for resting on the sofa, which is very funny. Oh, that's
や
unskippable.
っぱり技増え
Of
て
course
るん
it's
です
unskippable.
ね。
Why would it be skippable? Right, so this is when Tsukumo tells us about how we're gonna basically go into the school, because the headmaster is the only one who in the school who actually knows that who knows about the hired detectives. No other teacher or anyone else in the school knows. So before we do that, we're gonna quickly go in here. We're gonna put on that. We're gonna put on that.
これから、いじめがあるということを校長先生に相談を受けて説明を受けたので、調査に入りますという話を捜査社員はおっしゃっ
So
て
the
いま
items I
し
just put on there
た。
gives me about 14% extra on my attack. Then I brought an attack level 1 because it makes the fight coming up at the end of this chapter a lot faster. Alright, so now we're in a bit of a walk-in section here. Something very funny in the Dragon Engine games. You want to open
確かに4人ともすごいかっこいいですよね。というか、このシリーズの清掃員さん全体にかっこよくないですか？前作でもキムタク作業着着てましたけれども、八神さんが。連続殺人犯で、有罪受けて、拘置所にいる彼も結構なイケメンだった気がするんですが。
So we're going to open doors in the middle here. And another funny thing that you can do is when you're walking up the stairs and you can't run, going up the stairs in first person is actually faster. And by faster, I mean way faster. So we're going to go in first person all the time. In any section where where
今、盗聴器、隠しカメラをセットしてるところですかね。あ、カメラって言ってましたね。男子トイレにも仕掛け。
So there's a guy up here who has two options of how to like get him to move. One of them is to go around the back of him and look at the cigarette and basically threaten to get him done for smoking on school ground. Or the more favorable option, you can look at the bottle, talk to him, and then bribe him instead.
1000円渡して、休憩にちょっと行ってもらった感じですね。なるほど、これはいじめ直しそうな場所を見て、確かにトイレでいじめとかね、よく聞きますもんね、男性なんか。
Right, so now we're going to go into class 2-2, which is where we heard the main case of bullying was taking place. And we can see it happening right there. And then the teacher comes in and starts having to go at us, and we just go, is this how you treat people? Jesus. Right, oh, I can run now. Hell yeah. Right, so now we're going to go to the gymnasium.
なるほど、賄賂でどかすか、タバコのことでちょっと恐喝というか、交渉してどかすことができる。で、いじめの現場を見て、先生と会って、なるほど、今体育館ですね、これは。
Cool. And now we're gonna run around here.
横浜のあたりででもこれだけ広い敷地が愛作町の近くってすごいないい学校のはずなんだけどな。横浜はね、山手の中華街の上の方のあたりにいくつかね、有名な学校とかあったりしますけども、みんな大体お嬢様学校ですからね。そうそう。中華街の中には中華学校もありますし、山手の方に行くとフェリス女学院とかがあったりしますね。
Who the problem is with this situation. God, the classrooms are the worst to move around in when you're not in combat, because when you're in combat, you can actually.
フェリス女学院はお嬢様芸人、今ジャーナリストやってますけど、高松菜奈さんがフェリスのご出身で、高松菜奈さんの昔のネタとかを見るとどれくらいお嬢様だったかがわかると思います。山手の方は治安はすごくいいと思いますよ。落ち着いてるし。
That sounds good, because I have a wonderful donation, a $50 donation from Bobby the Blacktastic, who says, is Yagami like Sega's Phoenix, right? I wonder.
Yeah. Wow, he's basically the detective of the Yakuza universe. Right, so we're actually going around here because someone actually put a sticker over
校長室で、なるほど、いじめ現場を報告。
Now we have a stealth section we have to do. So this is the school stealth section.
どこから何をご機嫌をするのか、ステルスセクションですっていう今、チュートリアルの部分がありましたが、
And yeah, funny camera angle.
なるほど、盗撮と勘違いされたんですね。確かに男子トイレとかにね、カメラをやってましたからね。
So stealths in this game can actually be kind of difficult sometimes because sometimes the enemies will have fast or slow reactions to you, and sometimes where they're looking is not always 100% consistent. So sometimes you will expect something and then you get a different result, which is pretty normal, but it can get very frustrating because there's some security officers in a room on the rooftop that we need to go by that sometimes just randomly decide to face the wrong direction. So we're going to jump down here. We're going to try and land on the free stand man because we want it. You don't have to grab that, but you have to wait for that to load anyway before you can do it. You have to wait for Sukumi to come up there. Alright, so another stealth section. Right, so
またここでステルスが。
then we're going to run right here. So in stealth sections, you normally crouch and walk. You can hold sprint, but you can't toggle sprint. Like
警備員がいるけど、基本的にはこう伏せて、それから歩いてうまく警備員をかわしていくっていうふうに説明されてましたね。
because they basically stun enemies for free and make it so you don't have to wait for them to be distracted by a coin.
なんかスタングレネード的な何かを今投げたようですが、
We're just gonna.
そうか、先生たちにもこのいじめの調査は秘密なんですね、ほとんど。
Good luck here, which I think I'm going to get.
なんかもう完全にやってることがメタルギアになってるような気がするんですけど。
Straight past them. So the smoke pellets that you have, there are some collectibles here. There's actually two that we grab here. We're going to grab that one because we need it. We're going to throw a coin at
スモークスクリーン、煙幕って書いてあります
But
ね。
if you try and run past him, he will see you instantly. Then we're going to run around here. And this guy should be in the right spawn point, which is there. So we're going to throw a smoke bomb at him. We have enough time to run down here, grab this smoke bomb, and then we're going to run around.
なるほど、警備員や警察に関しては締め落としができない。まあそれは完全に公務執行妨害になってしまうから、教育的指導とはわけが違いますっていうことですかね。
The mortal attack system in this game, the first Judgment game, mortal attacks were incredibly deadly because what they did was they basically when they did damage to you with them.
メタルギアソリッドのヨーロピアンエクストリームむちゃくちゃきついですよ、あれ。私ヨーロッパに当時いたから。一瞬だけ触ったことありますけど。本当これ難易度高そうですね。こういう細かいところは面白いですけど。
You can counter them at the right time to get a massive amount of damage on whoever you're countering. So we're going to try and do that to, well, you have to do it to
これうまくカウンターすることでダメージがしっかり出せますということですが。
with the rugby ball.
これはかっこいいですね。丸くないあの形のボールを。
Start this fight in Snake. I don't know why it changes your style, but I'm going to switch
そして
has a bunch of AoE on it.
うるさい生徒たちを、ちょっと指導を行いますね、これは。
Picking off the individual enemies while I don't really care about the big guy with the big HP bar. So we're going to do that. And switch to that. So another change they made in this game with the combat is in the first Judgment you could only change styles at the apex of your combos, but in this they made it so you could change styles whenever you wanted.
スマップね、そうですね。スポーツミュージックアセンブルピーポルの略でしたっけ、スマップって確かね。 今画面見ていて気づいたんですけど、これ英語版だからと思うんですけど、左上が演舞とかこう一線とか、日本語だと文字だったのがあれですね、動物のアイコンになって分かりやすい感じになってるんですかね。
Tutorial. Luckily, right after that, we get teleported straight back outside of the school. So we have to go to the
鶴のマークみたいなのが
commercial district.
多分演舞か
Go
な。
back here like so many times because it's like the main hub in this game for everything that you do.
スポーツマッシュバーサルトピーポル。あれ、私の知ってるスマップじゃないな。
Try and help out Code real quick. Right. So skip that. Hit the rest. And then we're gonna obviously go back to the school and then go through the end of chapter 1. So do that, go. Right, and then at the end of chapter 1 is actually when we get started on the actual plot of this. So before I get into that, Tony, if you've got anything you need to say, please feel free to go ahead.
キムタク以外のメンバーではモンスタースポーツミュージックアセンブルピーポルだった人もいらっしゃいましたしね。
$5 donation from Winter Waltz that says, I love ESA, I love learning about speedrunning, and I love the cause. Hoping to see a cure for Alzheimer's. And they're putting $100 of that to any percent glitch for Prey, as well as $5 for Paint the Town Red.
なるほど。いじめ解決するために遠隔マイクっていうことはこう音を取るんですかね。
Appreciate it so much. Of which the upcoming run for Paint the Town, the Spare or Kill the Trader, is currently sitting at $45 for Spare the Trader versus Kill the
教
Trader.
員室に
We
行っ
have a little $5.
て、調査をして
And
と
we've。increased the goal for, we've increased the total to $683 out of 1,000 for the Prey glitch exhibition. So thank you so much.
Alright, so the bit I just did there.
ここで源田法律事務所から殺人事件の依頼が来ました。あ、じゃあ完全に横浜っていうだけじゃなく、やっぱり新宿ともリンクはしているんですね。
The sexual battery case is what it will be referred as mostly throughout the game. And then after that, we decide we need to go around and talk to a few people about what's been happening. And we notice a photo on one of the characters' desks, which is related to what's happening. Right, so now before I do anything, I just have to beat these guys up real quick. They really need to
なる
learn.
ほど。この裏でサルさんが担当した事件っていうのが殺人事件の方ですかね。あ、いじめは一旦解決したんですね。今ちょっとアイコン注目して見てたんですけど、鳥鶴か何かと虎と蛇ですかね。戦闘スタイルのアイコンが。その殺人事件の、被害者だった人が教育実習生だったけれども、なぜか、フラン死体で見つかった。で、その事件のことを、東京で痴漢して逮捕された警官がなぜか知っていた。この痴漢があれですかね、沙織さんが、弁護していた人ですかね。
She runs basically the mystery research club at the school. And we're going to become the club advisor, and that's how we get our in at the school. You actually suppose the game kind of wants you to go along with Amasara, but you can actually just run to where she's going, and it starts the cutscenes anyway. Give that. Right, so she wants to test. She wants to test us before we can do anything. So she asks us to go and help out the dancing club. So in this game.
がパンツ盗撮。これはやっぱり本編やりたくなりますね。いろいろと今話を聞いていると。今の天坂さんという名の子確かミステリー部の子ですよね。ミステリー研究部でしたっけ。
We have to play a little bit of dancing, and it's very, very cool. Because if you go through the story of this,
今度はダンス部ですね。
You help take the dance club to like national.
なるほど、勘のいい学生に気づかれて、それがさっきの天坂さんですか。なるほど。確かに部の顧問になれば、学校に入ってるのもおかしくないですもんね。
As you can see, they get very intricate and they are very cool dancing routines. So sadly, we only get to see about 30 seconds of it before it decides to go, no, that's enough. You basically also automatically clear this one as well. You don't even have to play if you didn't want to.
これが噂の踊るキムタクですね。
Once Yagami's done doing his little dance, he stops halfway through a move, which is like, why? Just let him finish. Alright, cool. Skip through all that. Alright, so. Where we're going next. That's where I'm going next. Alright, so.
キムタクのダンスをキムタクがプレイしている動画があります。そう、結構キムタクってゲーム好きだっていう話をそういえば聞いたことがありますよね。
of this plot point. But
なんかこのシリーズ
go in the middle.
共演者なんかからもうやりましたよっていう話を聞いて喜んでたっていう噂を聞いたことがあります。
Go through the building here.
俺はダンス素人。
From here. We ask her a question, and then we get asked by one of the other students to go to the third floor, which is her. And when we get to the third floor, we get flung into another fight, which I'm actually going to buy another couple of abilities. I'm going to buy another attack level up, and I'm going to buy a upgrade for Tiger style called Hidden Tiger Arts level 1. And what this does is every time I land a Tiger charged attack, it gives me a short attack buff while I'm in Tiger. There's an ability you get later which applies it to every style, but we don't need to do that right now. So I just need it for Tiger for
結
now.
構な数の指導を希望する生徒が入ってきましたが、
So quickly pause there, grab that, and grab that, and charge that.
タイガーだからこれは一戦かな、一戦のスキルを強化しま
You
し
can
た。
use your heat. You can use your heat here if you want, but there's not a lot of point because you have another fight coming up right after this. So you want to save it for that bit because it's much more useful there. So this is a cutscene you can't skip. The way you can tell is because it's still got the thing up in the corner that says defeat these punks again. Yeah, so this is meant to be a pretty safe school, but yeah, there's just kids running.
彫刻刀をね、教室で出すのはね、美術の時間以外はあまりよろしくないですね。
Very, very standard in the Yakuza universe. So we're going to jump out the window, which makes all the sense in the world. And now we can skip the cutscene when that guy walks into the classroom. So this is just another short parkour section. There's actually an incredibly important item we're going to pick up, which actually doesn't get much use.
今またパルクールの
If you can
で
use
抜け出すんですけれども、
it,
大事なアイテムここで拾っておきます
use
ということを
So
され
there's
て
a
いま
book
し
up
た。
here for something called Wounded Tiger. And what this does is when you're in critical HP or red HP when in the Tiger style, your damage actually increases. Which basically means that towards the end of the game, if I have the opportunity, yeah, I crit build. So because you normally don't.
で、今取ったアイテムは、
in runs of this, hoping
タイガーだから一戦スタンスの時に、ヘルスが低い、HP が低い状態、赤の状態で攻撃力が上がる、
so much damage. So at the end of this run,
スキルの教本をここで獲得しましたということを奏者さんがおっしゃっています。確かにこのシリーズ前作もですけれども、スキルが最初から解放されているのと、条件を満たして解放するものと、それからアイテムを獲得して解放するものがあるので、それをやっておきましたということですね。
Start punching these guys. And that was actually a really good fight. So I completely skipped his mortal phase there. He has an entire phase which... Oh, and the ragdoll. I completely skipped an entire phase there of that guy where he can go invincible and stop you from doing stuff.
いやでもいいとこの進学校でも案外なんか悪さが流行ることってあるんですよ。私も中学校の頃そこそこいい学校だったはずなんですけれども、なぜか折りたたみナイフ流行ってました。なのできっとね、この学校もちょっとそういうね、やんちゃな流行がある学校なのかもしれないですね。
So, but we need to go talk to her again because we want to know what's happening. So now we need to go look at this again. And she
そ
has
して澤先生のデスクを調査して、
all the pictures of her friends of a guy called of a character called Mitsuru Kusumoto, if I remember.
修羅の国ではないです。実は東京都内のそこそこいい学
He
校、
is a
いい学
kid
校、
from
多分。
long
多
ago
分
who got bullied and attempted suicide and yeah, that didn't go
そう
well.
そういうのがかっこいいって思っちゃう年代があるから、まあね、これはね、本心のかっこよさは違うんだぞってキムタクに教育していただかないといけませんね。
Right, so now we're in chapter 3. Basically, Sawa Sensei tells us to leave her alone. She actually doesn't want to talk to us, so we're not going to talk to her. We're actually just going to leave. Because we don't want to upset a potential source of information.
なるほど。それで、調査してて、警察が事情聴取に、まあ、これだけいろいろやってれば来そうな感じはしますが、
Have to leave through the front door every time and then you can taxi.
トロコン RTA、これは100%よりもトロコンだというか、
as I said,
24時間、最速に2日超。
So before, at the start of the run,
これは大変そうですね。要素結構ありますもんね。ジャッジアイズの方でも
so normally
細かいトロフィーありましたし。
use it in written text and scrolling text ends
で、
up faster than English.
99巻に戻ってきましたね。
In this game, the opposite is in effect because in spoken, Japanese sometimes is longer than English because they have more long-winded ways of saying things than we do in English. So in playing in English saves about 30 to 40 seconds in this unskippable cutscene because Sukamo just doesn't talk as much in English as he does in Japanese. So it's just shorter. So while this entire unskippable is going
今ちょっと言語の違いを操作者さんおっしゃっていて、日本語と英語だとかなり喋りの長さが違うと、つくもくん結構これ英語だとサクサクと話すんですけれども、日本語版だとかなり長い感じで喋るのになるので、英語版の方がスムーズですというようなことをおっしゃってました。
Donations over the course of the marathon can get you in the running for the PS5, one for the EU as well as one for the North American region.
確かにね、日本語版のつくもさんの喋り方は割とゆっくりで、なおかつ特徴のあるような喋り方してましたね。
As well as a RetroLink 5X Pro adapter.
これは確かに前作でもありましたね。キーワードを入れて、絞り込んで、で、ソーシャルハックしていくっていう。そうですね、今、音声英語で字幕英語かなと思います。
Over the course of the marathon, so a couple small donations can get you in the running.
結構私、英語とか外国語吹き替えと日本語版と比較するの好きなんですけど、確かジャッジアイズとかこれも PS 版日本で発売されてるの英語入ってなかったんじゃなかったでしたっけ？なのでちょっと英語版で試せなくて残念だったんですけども、そう、前回普通にツイッター検索って感じでしたね。キーワード入れて。
So he's over basically by like I can't think, a residential building. That's the word. I couldn't think of the word there. Right. So once we go there, we get given a sound device, which is what we used to locate him. It's the only time we use it as part of the story. We get a few items that we only use as part of the story once. And the reason why we use them as part of the story is because they're required to do as like as just a tutorial for them, and they're used in the side cases and all the side content and stuff.
このSNS サーチ、ユッターのサーチは、サイドケースだとかなりいろいろと使いますけれどもっていう感じで今チュートリアルやってますという話をしてましたね。そうですね。PS4 はあれがないので、臨場コードがないので、私も北米版とかヨーロッパ版とか買ったソフトとか何本かありましたけれども。ありがとうございます。北米版ちょっと探してやってみようかと思います。
Jump, jump. So this is just more parkour. I'm just going to move over twice here because it actually lines you up perfectly to just.
で、またパルクールでもう登っていく。
And then we get to
ですね、これ。
Why he's up here. And we talk about like swallows not being in season, and are you a resident, and don't you think you should get help? And he's just like, I don't know.
救出して質問をしてみたいな。
So we're gonna punch him for being a panty pincher, which is just how things work around here. So I'm actually gonna try and do a kind of a specific combo on him here, and hope he gets knocked down in the right way. And he did, which means that should one shot him.
なるほど、今の検索でビルで怪しい人いるっていうので見つけていったんですね。
He can survive the combo, which can be very annoying, and you have to try and pick him up afterwards. But if he slides in the right way there, you get the kill on him every time. All right, back to Yokohama 99, because we actually also agreed to talk to
トロコ奏者海外アカウントでダウンロード購入は常識。そうなんですよね。各国のアカウント持ってないとダウンロードできないので、しかもクレジットカードも現地のじゃないといけなかったりとか、結構条件が難しいんですよね。変態三重士いましたね。パンティ教授とかいろいろ。 サイドケースの女の子に嫌がらせをしまくる変態さんたちが、あれまた出てくるんですね、こっちでも。海外でも下着ボムあります。やられました。普通に。
Right, so before we can go in there though, as per tradition with a Yakuza game, because we're trying to get some important story elements, there is a fight before we can go in there with these masked men. So this is actually
DLC で変態さん重視出てきちゃうってことなんですね。
this is a group of thugs that operate in Yokohama. Give me a second just to buy Rising Blow. Rising Blow is very important. We need
で、
it.
スキルを、取っていきます。なんかでも新鮮ですね。こうやってスタンスがタイガーとかこういう名前になってるのは。
And there should be a guy behind me. Oh, there was a guy behind me, but I whiffed. There we go. Oh, nice. And we're gonna kick that guy. There we go. Right, so after this, we get given a photo of a I've actually forgotten the guy's name, but basically at the start of the game, this guy is.
サー先生ってさっき職員室でいろいろ写真とか見てた席の人ですよね。先生ですよね。それに話を聞こうとしたんですけれども、無駄の人たちに襲われたということですね。
Behind the sexual battery case, which I brought up before, which he actually staged, with the help of a few people that we'll get into a bit later. So this is Kuwana. Kuwana's very important throughout the story, but the first time we meet him, we have to punch him because, as per tradition, this is Yakuza. How to introduce
このクワナさん、すごい重要なキャラクターですというふうに言われてるんですが、なんか見覚えあるような顔かなって気がしますが。なるほど。やはり今作の俳優さん枠ですね。
And he'll go into his. Oh, if I get lucky here. I didn't get lucky there. Oh, and then I missed time my dodge. Big sads. So this is what happens when you miss time a mortal counter. You just get thrown on the floor and you can't do anything about it. So you just have to wait for yourself to get up, and then you can punch him. Right. So you would think that would probably be the end of chapter 3. We have a little bit more of chapter 3 to go before we can do anything. So basically, our friends save us from getting done by the police for fighting in the middle of the street. But before we do that, we run into this guy, and this guy is the extract guy from the first Judgment. And
一作目で出てきたセニーさんが登場しましたね、今。
And it does this. And you'll see it a little bit later because we're going to use it to body some of the endgame bosses because it is very busted and does a lot of damage. And it's actually also affected by.
なるほど、便利屋と、一旦喧嘩したけど仲直りという感じですかね、自己紹介をして。
So, yeah.
そして戦役のおじいちゃん、仙人さんですかね。にまた戦役を作ってもらうのかな。
Because if we could make more of these, it would be very useful for the run, but we just can't. We just don't have the resources to do so. Alright, cool. Back to this Yokohama 99, because we've got to talk to Tsukumo. Tsukumo has a bit more information for us about what's happening. Talk to him. And that's the end of the chapter. So we're heading into one of the longer chapters in.
これでチャプター1箇所終わりましたというふうに言っています。先ほどの気づいた人の写真、見てましたけれども、この人が何かキーになってくるんでしょうかね。杉浦君、さすがですね。きちんと仁義切ってる。
So we actually have to quickly make a visit to the school before we go anywhere because we need to talk to Sawa Sensei. Right, I've just scrolled through my notes and I have the name of the guy who supposedly murdered and or was involved in the case of sexual battery. His name's Ihara. His name just completely escaped me because there's so many names in this game. Right, Sawa Sensei's upset because all the stuff that's happening around her.
サーセに会いに行ったんですよ。今の被害者の人の名前を奏者さんが伊原と言ってたんですけども、名前多すぎて覚えられないっておっしゃってたんですが、さっきの写真がその被害者の三越場さんだったんですね。どうなんだろう。いや、名前もしかしたら単純に間違えて 覚えてただけかもしれません。たくさん人物出てきてわかんないっておっしゃってたんで。
Normally they have issues with like dealing with fight spawns and such. In this game, there's like 4 ways of despawning fights, and because you can taxi from the menu, you never have to worry about getting into fight spawns. So we can just pretty much like just avoid like.
ちょくちょくこう移動のためにタクシーを使ってますけども、このタクシーメニューから呼べるようになって非常に便利ですっていうことをね、今奏者さんが説明されてました。
The abandoned building around here. So we're gonna climb through this hole in the fence. And then we're going to try and do some parkour again. You can actually fall off during this section pretty easily, and it is very annoying. You lose like 30 seconds to a minute depending on where you fall off. But if you go from here and you get tutorialized on a few things like wall running and on iron balls and on iron bar.
あれ、なんか壁走りとかさっき考古学者さんがやってたようなすごい。
And if you time the QTs right here, you get SP.
今、沙織さんが弁護してる人の名前が出てきたんですね、さっきね。なるほど、ありがとうございます。痴漢容疑者、確かその人があれですよね、死体の名前を、フラン死体の名前を知ってたっていうような。そうです。AGDQ でも出てきて、この方とは違う方が走らせたかと思います。記録としては AGDQ 走らせで、ロストジャッジメントを走られた方の方がちょっとだけ上だったのかな。面白いんですけど、どちらもイギリスの方なんですよね。ロストジャッジメントのスピードライン、イギリスの方がすごく多いってすごく面白いなっていうふうに個人的には思ったりするんですけど。
We just interrogate him a little bit. We talk about the time of death. We talk about the state.
ちょっと整理すると、江原さんということが人が痴漢の容疑者で、沙織さんが弁護している。その沙織さんが弁護している痴漢の容疑者が、なぜか横浜にいたフラン死体の妹を知っていたと。で、そのフラン死体は、横浜の、学校で教えた教育実習生でしたっけだったっていうことですかね。チェイス始まりましたね。痴漢の犯人としてはアリバイが成立しているが、痴漢の犯人だというのが確定してて、そのために、殺人の方はアリバイが成立しているのかな。で、合ってますか？なるほど。そうするとこれが結構今回の重要なシナリオの鍵になるんですね。結構ここのチェイスが長くて大変そうっていう話を今奏者さんちらっとされてたかな。チャットラインにも出てますね。あんなアクションあるんですね。缶を蹴って今当てましたね。
I believe he does like go around the entire thing again, but you want to just make sure that he's at 0. Just to make sure. I'm going to just normally kick the bucket at him anyway. I do it in PB attempts as well. Then he turns his corner and then you end the chase. If he doesn't turn that corner, you didn't do enough damage to him. So he will he'll run around the entire cycle until he gets to that corner again, because he has to turn that corner for you to end the chase.
今のところバケツを当ててないと、あそこを曲がった後でもまだちょっと逃げられるみたいな話を奏者さんされていました。そして、横浜99課に戻ります。今、横浜99課を英語の方で横浜99って言ったんですけど、ちょっとかっこいいですね。
I just couldn't get the right menu there. Right, so Sukuma here is having trouble trying to like get access to this building to do some investigation stuff. So we're going to flash our lawyer badge that we still have. And then that gets us access to do stuff. And now we get to use the skateboard for movement for once. So sadly the skateboard isn't really used too much, because when we first saw this game we thought that the skateboard would actually be hella fun. But the fact you can taxi from the menu, and in this game, unlike you're like a dragon where you can also taxi from the menu, in that game you have to like unlock all the taxis. In this game, you just have the entire list like available instantly. Oh yeah, this is just a mission that gives you a free 300,000 yen just on the spot. It's actually free. And then because we're actually right by the vocational school, we're actually going to go take a quick stop
あ、
at the
このホテルありますね、本当に中華街にね。
here
ゲームも出てきましたけ
to
ど、
make ourselves a bit more powerful.
新宿も本当にありそうな街並みっていうのが本当にすごかったんですけれども、このシリーズは本当にそういう街並みの楽しさっていうのを見てて、やっててあるなと思います。
Put that. Oh god, I need to actually taxi back to Yokohama 99.
あ、なるほど。少しが疑われたけれども、疑いを晴らす。さすがは弁護士ですね。
If I remember correctly, this is This is where Sayori from the Genda Law Office asks us to meet with Hoshino also from the Genda Law Office tomorrow morning, where we need to go to the train station and do some investigation on the train station. So we need to get some rest. If I can talk to the sofa, that would also be very helpful. Right, so the reason why we need to go do some investigation at the train station is because we need to work out the route that that happened for the sexual battery.
ありがとうございます。江原さんの状況の、説明、チャット欄の方でありがとうございます。多分、有罪がで、このまま、上告を取り下げると、それで確定するんですよね。なので、法律上は、そうなってしまうと、そちらが関わってしまうので、じゃあ、撤回するには、逆に勝訴というか、勝った側の、検事側が上告しなきゃいけなくなるのかな。控訴しなきゃいけなくなるって状況なのかな。監視カメラを今探してるんですね。ということは、これが痴漢の現場かな。新宿駅で、監視カメラを全部探して、なるほど。めちゃくちゃ監視カメラありますね。確かにこれ全部見つけるのは大変そうですね。
And there's one last camera here. And that's all the cameras. Right, so now we're going to map out the route that the culprit took. And we see there's a blind spot here. And this blind spot
現場検証みたいな感じで、じゃあどのカメラだったら見つかってるか。
that our detective men have in this. Is
アプリヘンデツっていうのが容疑者ですかね。そう、湘南新宿ラインだとかなり横浜まで早いです。
So, once we do that, we're going to go back through this. Alright, we need to go back to the school to talk to Sawa because we need to ask some questions. So whenever you go into the school, there's a lot of different ways you can move around the school. Optimally learning which ways to go in the school is actually pretty difficult because most corridors look exactly the same, but this route here is the shortest way.
痴漢事件と。そうか、前作もね、トリックを崩して、完全犯罪のトリックを崩したっていうような形でしたね。今回もやっぱりそこをきちんとやっていくって感じですかね。
The kid in the coma that I mentioned, Mitsuru Kusamoto, but she basically got overruled by higher ups, so she couldn't actually do anything about it. Which is pretty sad in the long run. So taking the lift actually there is a little bit faster than running down the stairs because you actually have to go outside if you run down the stairs there. Because you're on the roof, so you're actually just in the right position to run straight to the lift. And you've only got to do one slowdown animation rather than two. Right, so we're now coming up on a lot of people's favourite section of this that we like to call Detective Dog. There's a dog here that's also a detective. So while I'm getting to know Detective Dog and he's leading me around, Tony, if you've got anything you want to talk about or say.
お、犬が出てきましたね。
I appreciate that, Rebel. Give us an opportunity to tell us more about the charity that we're raising.
探偵犬でしたっけ
？Yearly Alzheimer's Fund.
匂いで、匂いを嗅いで役に立ってくれる探偵犬のが出てきました。
The cost of dementia is a global challenge. If global dementia care were a country, it would be the 14th largest economy in the world. By 2030, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world. And just an extra
あ、
piece
カムロ
of
町にも来てくれるん
information,
ですか、
in
この
addition to
犬。
the donations, all Twitch subscriptions, cheers, and ESA merch will be going towards Alzheimer's Fondant.
Got something? Doing great.
Alright, so Detective Dog here leads
めちゃくちゃ犬褒めてますね。
to a mother and a child that are very upset, and then he then leads me to
犬を散歩して犬を褒めるキムタクが見れるのはロストジャッジメントだけって感じですね。
We don't like that, so we're gonna punch him.
あ、なるほど。
And hopefully this hits. Oh, I was just shy. That's very unfortunate.
敵の戦闘回避にも確かにあれいろんなところに街の中に敵があるから湧くから戦闘回避できるとすごく
Right, so we find out now
便利ですよね。
that the detective dog's name
そ
is
してこれは
and he's actually
お母さんが借金の方に見許されそうになったので 子供と合わせてあげて、ヤクザから守ってあげるというような流れだったかなというふうに記憶しているんですが、ミステリー研究会の子、キムタクがやらかしているところを見つけて頑張ってあげるから、顧問になってっていうふうに言っていた子ですかね。
We're actually doing some discussion about what's happening and what's going on, but during this, we're actually going to get attacked by the like Limuang Mafia or something they're called. But first things first, I need to get more information from Tsukumo.
こうやって見るとやっぱり前作よりいろんな要素が加わってるからやってみたくなりますね。今度やります。
A pretty cool character. Right, so first things first, we
RTA のイベント見てるとやりたくなるゲームが増えるから大変です。さて、チェイス貼りました。さっきの白面の男ですね。
He's going to throw 2 items at us. He's going to speed up a little bit. There's one. There's a second one coming in about now. There it is. So we're going to slide under both of them. And there, we're going to avoid those guys.
犬アプリで呼び出せるんだ。ウーバーイーヌですね、まさにね。
Caught like that. And getting caught can actually be a huge problem in some of these. Because if you get caught, you end up too far behind them. And if you end up too far behind them, items you kick at them won't hit them. But luckily for Tesso, he's actually pretty nice to you. The one after this is not very nice to you if you mess up in any way. So, alright, so around here there's a bucket we get to kick at him. You only have to kick this bucket
ウーバーイーヌの名前、ランポ君な。江戸川乱歩のランポ君ですね。
to make sure he's actually going to be in low health. Alright, so we've got to do one more loop of the area, which is actually around here, which is pretty easy. So there's a bike here we got to jump over. He speeds up here, then he throws an item. We just have to dodge the cones because you can trip over them. It's left, right, left. And then we go around the corner here, and this same guy that we jumped over is still on his phone in the way, so we're going to jump over him again. And we're going to kick a bucket at Tesso to make sure
この人さっき飛び越えたんですけどって言ってたんですけど、
smack him in the back of the head with a bucket. Then he's going to go right here and up some stairs. This is actually the base
飛び越えられる人の方も丈夫ですよね。
for this small group of people. And I missed it. If you actually fall at the right angle there, you can actually land on top of him and skip the animation I got of stumbling on the ground, which is very useful. Right, so right at the start of the test so far here, I'm just going to do a quick menu because I need to buy a few abilities. Right, so here's the Tesso fight. Tesso
なんかこの仮面の男のマスクが若干攻撃のマスクっぽい感じしますね。
So
人的なのかなあ、7で覚えのあるところ。へー。マップも共有されてるんですね。これはシリーズやってると楽しいですよね、そういう要素。
by EX burst attack. What else do I need to buy? Oh, I need to buy triple finisher for that. And
ここで、スキルを取っておきますと。
now she'll push him through to first phase.
あ、テッソーさんはテッソーさんですね。
And then we're gonna go into EX mode. Charge attack. Charge attack. Take the hit there, then do that. And that completely finishes him off. So if you eat the first hit of his mortal attack there, it actually grounds him. So if you mortal try and counter too early, he stays in the air, and you just do a really, really long animation of you swinging your arms around, and it really doesn't do anything other than waste your time. So by waiting and taking a small bit of damage there, you can actually save yourself a lot of pain.
敵がトンファン使ってるのすごく中華っぽいですね。
And he's gonna stand up in a second. There we go. That worked out so much in my favor. Right, so we're going to run up these stairs here. Now, hopefully, if I get the right angle here, you can actually defeat a majority of these guys. Oh, they're in the wrong. If you go like that. Kick.
結構な連戦になりますが、ここで、
And hopefully my partners will finish that guy off.
仲間の増援が来ました。
There we go, we got that one. So we go down here.
で、下を抜けて、ここにもいるので、倒していくというふうに、奏者さんがいま
Calm
し
down,
た。
please. Take your sword elsewhere. Hit that guy. That attack there is actually a lot worse in this game than it was in the original Judgment. The hitbox on it is really weird. And you do just kind of fly in random directions sometimes with it. So I try and use it to just dash at enemies. It doesn't always work, but it's the best option we have. So I'm going to run this guy. 1, 2. Cancel into that. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Dash cancel. And there we go. That's that guy.
今何発で中ボス倒すかちゃんとカウントして、
Oh, yo, thanks.
大技も入れて5発で倒しましたね。
So I didn't have to do any more hits than that. Right, so let's go through some cutscenes. And we got to go back to Yokohama 99 to check on Sugiura and Tsukumo. But they got a little bit.
で、横浜99課に戻って、状況を確認します。
They basically just outnumbered Sugiura, so we do have to phone them an ambulance, and they do go to the hospital. So not very good for them, but it's fine. We're gonna go take a nap on the sofa. They'll be fine by the morning. It's all good. Right, so now we actually get to go back to Kamurocho. So we've spent a long time not in Kamurocho. Now we're actually gonna go back to Kamurocho for a little bit. Because we need to go to the Gendalore office. So we're going to head to Kamurocho if I can pause
で、
it.
これから源田法律事務所新宿に戻りますというふうに話を
Kamurocho here,
し
you
てい
actually
ます。
can't access the taxi menu. It's because there's actually a fight that the game is
なるほど、杉浦君たちもまた別途で襲われてたんですね。それは怪しいですね。そして懐かしの、カムロ町で源田法律事務所まで。
But they're looking for him and they ask us and we go, we don't know. And they go, okay, we're going to punch you then until you tell us. So we're gonna. Okay, that did not work
で
out.
またチンピラに絡まれています
So
が、
we're just gonna hope this works out.
なんか一度にねちょっとあるお店変わってたりしますよね、このカムロ町でも。ポッポなんかは共通してますけど、さっき奥の方に吉野家が見えて、
That guy.
吉野家は、ジャッジアイズの方では出てこなか
That
っ
was
た
kind of okay
かな
considering
と思うんで
everything
す
going
が
on there, but that's perfectly fine. Right, so the end of this chapter is actually pretty simple. We need to go see Sayori, then we need to go see Ihara in the detention center. We're gonna quickly go over here. Alright, run right here. So normally whenever I'm going here, you can run out in the road, it doesn't really matter. If you don't have a partner with you, you can actually go on the skateboard. So another use that the skateboard has is that as long as you don't run into the fight spawn, they actually
で
take...
親の顔より見た源田法律事務所の扉。
So what you can do is you can use a skateboard
あ
to、kind of
ドンキホーテ
slap
そうです。
around
なくなりましたね。
So we're gonna quickly
あ、
go
牛丼屋はシリーズごとに変わるんですね。あ、そうなんですね。ありがとうございます。いや、私今日お昼、吉野家の牛丼でしたので、ちょっと嬉しかっ
I
た
now
で
know
すね。
this because it's written in my notes. Which is that photo there. And then we get to go back to the Yagami office to take a quick nap before we spend a little bit more time in Kamurocho. So I'm going to quickly jump over there. Oh, lovely. So something else that you can do on the skateboard is sometimes occurs when you're holding the button. Sometimes when you're on the skateboard, you will just clip a guy's feet.
あ、痴漢の人、さっき証拠写真を見せてたのが痴漢
Never do that.
疑いの人ですかね。被疑者ですか
Right,
ね。
so we need to quickly go back to the Gendalore office, and then we feel like we're being watched. So we're actually going to go and try and distract the guy. So while I'm doing the whole distraction tactics and all that stuff, Tony, if you've got anything you need to say, please feel free to go ahead. If I can actually get to the right bit, that'd be useful. All right, cool.
All right, Rebel, thank you. I was going to mention some of the upcoming bid wars as well as the donation incentives. Coming up in a couple of hours, we have Retro City Rampage. We have a bid war for the color palette. And at the moment, the color palette of My Eyes is currently winning with $30, followed closely behind with the GTA 3 color palette with $25, and the black and white color palette with $20. So if you'd like to change up the color palette
これ、
for
こ
Retro
の、
City
こちらの、
Rampage,
弁
feel
護
free
士
to
さんが
go
沙織さん
ahead
です
in
ね。
for that. In addition, we also
で、
have
沙織さんに、
Town Red,
証
which is
拠を提示し
subsequently
て、
coming up after
状況を
Retro
説
City
明してい
Rampage a
る
couple hours after
という流れ
that,
があったでしょ
where
う
we
か。
have a Spare the Trader or Kill the Trader donation incentive, with Spare the Trader leading $45 to $40. So if you would also like to have an impact on where we go with that story, Spare the Trader is currently winning, so feel free to do
ここの
that
面
as
会拒
well.
否、
And as an update,
面会は前作でも出てきましたけど、弁護士が被疑者といろいろ打ち合わせするような
Glitch exhibition of Prey 2017
機会で、それでやっぱり弁護方針とかを決めるわけですけれども、面会拒否したっていうことはもう自分の有罪を認めて、それを、まあ、おそらくこの感じだと利用しようっていうふうな
Cool. So,
ことがなんとなく感じ取れるわけで
so
す
what
ね。
happened there was we got followed by some guys, and so we decided to beat them up. So, the point of what we're doing here is we're actually looking for the leader of what are known as the arcade.
ロストジャッジメント、海外で受けてるのどうなんでしょうね。もうすでに出てから半年で2回も海外のスピードランイベントに採用されてるので、結構そういう意味では人気があるんじゃないかなと思いますけど、普通の人が走ってるかどうか、ちょっと私も最近あんまり配信者さん海外の人の見てなかったんですが、ちょっとチェックしてみようかなと思います。確かにこのゲームは海外の人がどんな感じでプレイしてるかっていうと、見てみたいですよね。
Other Yakuza games, which I think is Yakuza 7, got disbanded. So they're basically remnants of the lower grade thugs and some of the other higher ups. So let's get that. Right. So
ファイナルソードとに、は日本で大流行してるんじゃないですかね。ファイナルソードもザゲっても結構
is in danger. So we're gonna go be a good friend and go see him.
ね、RTA 走られた後でみんなでね見てたりするの見ますからね。
We need to crawl through the vents like Spider-Man real quick. And then we're gonna end up
確か
in
に
the male bathroom. So that's just
弁
where
護士
we
は
end
ダ
up.
クトをこうやってステルスすることもやらなきゃいけないんですね。
Steal the clothes of a bartender. So that's that guy there. We're gonna follow him technically as he goes to the toilet, and then we're gonna steal his clothes, just like any good detective does. And what's funny is you actually get to keep it as like a full disguise that you can use in any mission where you have to use a disguise. So yeah, we can actually wear it a bit later on, which is also very funny. Alright, so he's trying to do that. We're gonna nick that. Now we're the bartender, so we're gonna go downstairs now. And we're gonna go make a drink for someone.
なるほど、
And
登場
this guy
会
does have the lowest alcohol tolerance.
登場会はあれですよね。龍が如くの方の、ヤクザの組織ですよね。それが解散して半グレが増えて、現実でもなんかちょっと半グレが増えたりとか
Actually gone.
一時ありましたから、ちょっとそういう流れにも沿ってる感じがしますね。
So this is like the main distraction for this guy is pouring him a drink. Taking a drink while
めちゃくちゃ似合ってますね。
very useful. Right, so after this we have the rest of the stealth section of the arcade hideout. And it's kind of annoying because the final guy can be kind of inconsistent with like the directions he decides to
八神さんの英語版での相性がターボっていうのがタックなんですよね。この八神さんはタクですね。めちゃくちゃかっこよくて似合ってますね、バーテンの演奏が。
slowly walk through this entire thing. And the only reason why it's annoying is because Yagami actually just like slow walks during this, which is very annoying. If he actually like fast walked, then it would actually be fine. So this guy here, we're going to throw a bomb at him. And hopefully the final guy is...
こうやってコインとそれから煙幕
That's fine.
を使い分けてスニーキングミッションを
And
成功させる。
there we go. I had to play that a little bit safe because sometimes that guy, if he's facing the wrong direction, will just turn around and try and get you. So we've got to do another stealth takedown. As I said, Yagami's useless in combat in these, so this is the only way to take down enemies in the stealths. But it's funny we do that in front of basically everyone, and then we're magically going to change from our bartender clothes back into our regular fighting clothes because we can't do combat in the bartender clothes. I'll get him dirty. We can't do that.
まあね、普通のところにはね、弁護士がね、メタルギアしてこないんで、油断もしますよ。で、ここで RK メンバーとの戦闘になるわけですね。これ見てるとなんかずっとトラのスタンス、タイガースタンスで戦ってるんですけど、多分これ一戦なのかな。
That guy's called Akutsu. He'll be very relevant later.
スキルなんかもこの、タイガースタンスのスキルを中心にとっていたので、あ、やっぱりこれが一戦ですね。
Cool. So you punch out all those guys, and then Akutsu's like, "Yo, you better get back up, boys, or otherwise I'll punish you." And he's like, "Right, boys, get back up." And then we take down this wave, and the same thing's gonna happen. So within each wave, basically, the enemies get more and they get bigger HP bars, basically.
確かに、これチャージ攻撃。私はチャージ攻撃が出てなったのに一戦全然使いませんでした。やっぱり上手い人がこうやって動かしてるのを見てると、もう見てるだけで楽しいですね。多分そうです、スタンス多分、残り鳥と、蛇だったと思います。蛇はきっとスネークって言ってるんだろうと思うんですけども、鳥がどういう名前で言ってるかわからないですけど、後でちょっとメニュー見たときに見る余裕があったり、聞けたら報告します。
Kick and kick. That's a very good fight right there. That was an incredible fight.
すごいいい感じにキック2発決まりましたっていうふうに奏者さんも満足のようです。多分演舞が鳥だったので、受け流しがヘビじゃないかなと思います。
Kusamoto, that guy definitely decided to get in my way. So while I'm having the conversation with Sayuri here, Tony, if you got anything you want to say, feel free to go ahead.
で、ここで沙織さんと会話をして話を進めるというふうに。
I know I'm enjoying the run, and you know who also is enjoying the run? We have Evil Yoda with a $10 donation. It says, been watching reruns for a while. Glad I could finally catch a live stream and donate to the cause. Thanks all runners and staff for putting this together. And
クレーンスタイル、そうですね、クレーンはツルですね。確かに羽をこう首ちょっと長めで羽を広げたようなスタイルですね。
For Retro City Rampage, which now we have still my eyes leading at 30, but it's a little bit more of a
今の方が痴漢の被害者なんですね。ありがとうございます。
Alright, so for context there, we went to Yui Mamiya's house and we basically showed her footage of someone getting murdered in front of her and her child, which is like, oh god. So, but what's funny, right? So earlier on, we
ここで証拠の確認をして、なるほど、被害者がグルだったので、今、グルの人、共犯者の状況というのを、共犯者がいるはずだっていうような、証拠を見ながら話をしていましたね。星野くん、この流れで初めて顔見たような気がするんですけれども、主人公八神さんの後輩、八神さんがいたところの事務所に入った比較的若手の優秀な弁護士、自分は一生2番手になりたいというようなことを言ってたんですけれども、前作ではラストにきちんと一番手というかいいところを決めました。
Right, so chapter 6 here. Chapter 6 here is actually mostly movement, and mostly story context with some other small stuff. So we're gonna go back to Yokohama real quick. Alright. We've got to go talk to Sawa Sensei again, and Sawa Sensei basically tells us that we need to wait until she's done with her meeting. And so during that time we get to do a little short section of Sayuri. So in the first Judgment game we actually did a section as Sayuri. And yeah, we did it in first person, but in this we actually get to just walk around as her, so. Right, so now we're going to leave the school, and luckily in this case we get to just go down.
で、澤先生と今話をして、また学校を離れま
So
す。
there's no real complicated like route you have to take to get to the door faster. Right, so
Hey,
let's get past all these cutscenes of him talking to Sayuri. And basically we get told that we have to just wait until it's over. So we're gonna go over to Sayuri and she's and
で、沙織さんと話します。ちょっと面白いんですけど、奏者さんが沙織さんのことをさゆりっていつも言ってるんですよね。
then basically we're gonna go and pose with I can't remember
で、
her
沙織
name,
さ
but
んをま
the other
た
woman that
に活
is
躍
in
しても
the
ら
to
う
try and catch
パターン
the
ですか
attention
ね。
of the
一
art
作目でもあり
teacher.
ましたよね。沙織さんにを動かして。
She we're
Do
gonna talk
she-
about what clothing we should wear and all this
多
stuff.
分さゆりっていう何か映画かなんかもあったんじゃなかったでしたっ
So
け
this
ね。
section here is actually kind of completely useless. It is just a long walking section, which gets us free SP at the end. So if you have any other messages that you need to say, totally.
このキャバ嬢、カムロ町ナンバーワンキャバ嬢になるっていうシーンありましたけれど
Alright,
も、
well, that's fantastic. So, in addition,
この沙織さんすごく素質があるよって見抜いたのが星野くんで、星野くんがものすごい沙織さんの魅力を語るシーンとか前作にもありましたね。
for an art print of Bonfire, art print of Jin, an art
なる
print
ほど、
of
今回の、
Ashley for
沙織さんの調査対象は、半グレ集団アルケーナです
very
ね。
nice art piece. It's again, those are $10 minimum donations. Also, at a $10 minimum donation is a 6-inch Kirby character plush. Now, regular Kirby, not the big-mouthed version, but still a Kirby nonetheless. As well as a Legend of Zelda keychain set, which includes a very nice selection of keys, as well as little heart containers and various accoutrements, all for a minimum donation of $10. Like I said, a cumulative across the marathon. And for $15 minimum donation, you guys can be in the running for an Undertale art book, as well as a video games world map, which you can again get in with your donations. And then finally working our way up, of course, the folks that if you've wanted one, we have 2 PS5s available, one for the EU and one for the folks in North America, which is a $100 minimum donation, again cumulative across the marathon. So if you want to potentially be in the running for prizes as well,
今、職員室に行ったら澤先生のところに空き巣が入った。チャットフォローありがとうございます。澤先生も結構災難ですね。いろいろと。今放送の方では、今回のイベントのチャリティーの話をされていました。現在このイベントは、スウェーデンのマルメで開催されておりますチャリティー RT イベント、ESAW2022 の公認ミラー配信です。こちらの方はチャリティー単純な寄付以外にも、一定以上の金額を寄付することで、ロッテリーに参加することができます。ヨーロッパと北米でそれぞれ1台ずつのプレイステーション5を景品として準備していますよみたいなご案内をしていました。皆さんもご関心あったら、ちょっとね、商品の方には参加できないかもしれませんけれども、ぜひご寄付いただければと思います。
And then we get shoved straight into chapter 7, which is what we like to call the Akutsu Gauntlet, because we fight Akutsu, the guy that was sat in the sofa, in chapter 5 a good 3 times in the span of about a few minutes. So here's Akutsu 1. We're going to do kick, kick, spin, kick, kick, and do that. So I'm just trying to basically deal with enemies as fast as I can. Go into that and try and deal with Akutsu before he does his That was a kind of okay fight. So basically, Akutsu does have a mortal attack, but like most other bosses from before, you can skip it if you just are stun knocking him. I like to do that to him basically because his one actually has a really difficult timing to get, and if you're in a really awkward position, especially on the lookout here, the balconies here, you actually really can't like do it. That was really good that guy went into the area effect of my thing there. Okay. Oh, Yagami, please. I should take out that guy. Kick that guy in the shin. There we go. So that wasn't the best fight, but that's fine. So during this, we actually just get to listen to a banger soundtrack. So give us a second here, just for me to check something. Items. I need to check if I have enough of that. Oh, I don't have enough for what I need afterwards. So I'll buy that in a second. But the attack harp is very useful. So normally you want to buy that, and you want to buy Hidden Tiger level 2. I'll buy Hidden Tiger level 2 in a second, but I do need it. That was an insane fight. Normally that takes like a full 3-hit combo, but you can do. But as you just saw there, I didn't too. You just get listen to this actual bop of a soundtrack.
今のはすごく気持ちよく決まったっていうふうに言ってましたね。タイガーのタイガースタンス一戦のスキルも強化しましたし、一戦ってでも1対1にたけるっていうような内容だったと思いますけども、ガンガンと1対1でも倒していきますね。さすがにもう教育的指導に関しては貫禄ありますね。
Just kick him a few times. There we go. That's fine. Just because I whiffed, it's better just to kick him. All right, so get that. Now, when we go down the stairs, we get our second fight with Akutsu. As I said, this is the Akutsu Gauntlet. There he is. So we're gonna go.
さっき言ったアクスさんのとの2度目の戦いですね。
And pray to God that they will fly into each other like that.
今戦うときに相手飛ばして、お互いぶつかるような感じで技を決めていきますというふうに奏者さん言っていました。今のこういうのですよね。敵を飛ばしてついでに後ろまで吹き飛ばすっていう。強いですね。
Okay, there was no one there. That should be the last guy. That was an okay fight. Right, so right after this, we actually get flung into another fight with Akusu, but in this fight, we don't have access to our phone.
もう一度アクスさんとのバトルがあるということなんですけども、ムビ飛ばしてるかなんかなぜか再生しまくってるようにしか思えないっていう感じですけれども、チェーンソー持ってますね。それはちょっと反則では？なるほど、捕まってしまったので3戦目になったんですね。本当だ、拷問を受けてた。結構キムタク満身創痍ですね。このゲームってキムタクとか仲間がこう怪我をするっていう流れがあると、その怪我をしたままで戦いますよね。それがなんかちょっとかっこいいなっていうふうに思ったりしますけど、あ、なるほど、スマートフォン募集されてんだね。お弁当はスマートフォンがないと食べられないので回復できないんですね。
Okay, cool. So the end of this is just kind of clean up city normally. That whiff somehow. So the end of this is just clean up city. We're just going to go around, clean up all these guys. That attack used to have a much better hitbox than the first Judgment, and it's very annoying that it doesn't have a good one in this game. And there we go, that got rid of that guy. So there are actually different sets of combos that you can do in this game, other than the one that I've been doing. But the main one I've been doing actually has quick hits, so that's why you do it. But that one there is a one that does a few really powerful hits, especially when you charge them. So you can basically just power through enemies, especially when you're in EX mode. Alright, so now we're going to go check on Sawa Sensei. Get on the skateboard for like 2 seconds, because hell yes, we're going to get on the skateboard for 2 seconds.
今、奏者さんがバトルの時のコースをおっしゃってたんですけれども、もちろん簡単に殴りながら軽い
Right, so now
ジ
we're
ャブ
going
を
into
繰り出す
the
ことも
counter
できるんです
technique.
けれども、やっぱりチャージした攻撃が非常に強いので、チャー
So,
ジした
chapter
攻撃
8,
で
we'll
も
talk
相手を
about
ぶち抜
discovering
くっていう
about
の
what
が、
happened
あ
with
の、効率いいかと思いますというふうに
Kuana.
説明され
But
てました。
sadly, during the time that we were dealing with Akutsu,
そ
Sao
れが、
got murdered.
アクスを相手にしている間に、
Basically, as a way to try and silence her.
澤先
So,
生が
as good
殺
as
されて
Heavy
しまったんで
detectives,
す
we're
ね。
going to desecrate the crime scene by taking a piece of evidence with us. And then we're going to run away with it because it's very useful to us. Alright, so now
澤先生、
we're
本
going
当
to
に
police
こ
that
の
crime scene.
ストーリー、
So there's
運
actually
が悪い
someone
こと
that
ば
I
かり
haven't
でした
mentioned
ね。
who is the supposed leader, the supposed actual leader of the arcade members, a guy called Kazuki Soma. By the way, sometimes her hip. She's in the cutscene, but she's not actually there physically. So if you run really fast after the cutscene, she just kind of pops out of existence. That's Amasawa. Right. So what we're saying, yeah. So Kazuki.
澤先生、ムービーシーンには出てくるんだけれども、その後すぐ消えてしまうので、追いかけても間に合わない、間に合いませんみたいな話をされてまし
The
た。
way it had, which is very clean. So that's what he likes to do. He's very much based on like a ton of horror themes. He's actually a pretty cool like themed villain, and he's like basically a function of like our snake style. So when you fight him later on, he actually has counters and throws and stuff, and he basically counters you for trying to hit him, which is what you do in Snake. You counter people. So he's very cool. So, but before we need to go, I need to quickly pop into class 2-2, just check up on them.
帰る前にちょっと2年2組の教室をチェックしますというふうに。
Saves a tiny bit of time to just run back here and use the lift real quick. Otherwise, you got to go out some doors and it's very slow. You basically run the same distance, but you don't have to open doors, which saves a little bit of time.
ここも短縮要素って今チャットの方で出てたんですけども、どっちのエレベーター使うかでほんのちょっとだけ距離が縮みますみたいなことを
Always have to go. Skip that.
言っていました。そしてタクシーを呼んで、
Right, so we're actually going to do some investigation into Kuana because we don't think because by this point in the story, he's basically a mystery to us, and we don't think he is who he says he is, basically. So we're going to do some background checks on him to make sure he
そ
is
し
who he
て、
says he is.
クアナの正体、本当に自称通りなのかって今疑いを持っているという話を、奏者さんしています。
So we're
なので、
going
スクモ君に調べてもらうんですかね。 そう、スケボーもさっきだいぶ前に奏者さんおっしゃってたんですけれども、あれがすごく便利なのかなと思ったら案外使い勝手悪かったんですよねみたいなことを。
something that is kind of clever about this is it kind of plays on like
で、スケボーがすごい使い勝手よかったら面白そうだなと思うんで
so
すけれども、
basically he has a
実際にはそんなにみ
and
たいなこ
normally
とが
ashtrays aren't the
言って
most
ま
clean
した
things
ね。
in the world, even if like you do clean them. And he also has a box of cigarettes there, but Yagami knows that Kuana vapes, so why does he have a
で、
box
これ
of
アクアナの部屋を調査してま
Wow,
すね。
the lighter in that box of cigarettes is actually a USB stick. So we're going to take the USB stick and actually has a video on it that we need to do some reviewing of. Oh yeah, these guys know what we're up to and what we're
そ
looking
して外
into.
に出るとまたあれですね。
Oh
バ
my
トル
word.
ですね。
I forgot that guy can do the grab sometimes. I'll quickly go into that. So hopefully Kaito can deal with those guys a little bit faster. We're going to just quickly go. Kaito, you could have done some more damage, please.
今、カイトさんにもうちょっと戦ってよって言ってましたね。
Right after that, we actually
まあ、
get
キムタクこれだけ強ければ、キムタク一人
a
で
message saying that we
OK
should
っ
go
て
to a
感じに
particular
なります
restaurant,
ね。
which is supposedly run by Koana's uncle, I believe. It's either his uncle or his
なるほ
dad.
ど。
We need to go track
半グレ集団の RK を追ってたのは本当はクアナだったと。
and go into the restaurant that's by.
で、それで、たまたまヤガミが絡んでた、あそこ
And
に
as
つ
I
るんでた
mentioned
から巻き
earlier
込まれ
about
た。
fighting Soma,
ね。
we get a nice boss fight with Soma with probably one of the best themes in the game. Sadly, we don't get to hear too much of it at this point in the run, because we do kind of do so much damage to him that we kind of body him at this point in the game. Right, so here he is. Here's Soma.
なんかまた見たことあるような造形のキャラクターが出てきましたね。なるほど。今、ハングレ RK のリーダーって言ってましたね。
Because I now have my attack buff. So when he gets about here is when he'll start charging up his staff. And that should finish off the fight nearly. And
チャージ攻撃を何個か当てて、ほぼ戦闘これで終わるぐらいの勢いでやってますというふうに。超いいですよね。これがサー先生を殺したアイスピックなんですね。
This is one of those things where, like, you know, we like kind of win because he doesn't get knocked out. He just kind of stands there and we walk towards him, and then he kind of gets away afterwards. So sometimes I'm like, that fight was kind of pointless. So ambulances, and that's the end of that chapter. So we're going on to chapter 9.
ここで救急車が来て、チャプター終わります。次はチャプター9。もうチャプター9まで来たんですね。結構進んできましたね。
But he's at Bar Survive, which if you played Yakuza Like a Dragon, this is a very important place and it's got a very important reference. Shout outs to the bartender in this place. And his name is Kitakata. And we gotta go back to Yokohama 99.
で、北方さんと会話をします。この人、名前があるってことは結構重要キャラクターですかね。あ、そうですね。なのですごい重要な場所になりますというふうに今のバーのことを言ってました。またテッソーさんが言ってましたね。
I want to do the most amount of damage to Tesso, and then after this, I'm going to go into EX. And try and beat as many guys as I can. So right after this, he charges up his EX mode. While he's doing that, we're going to go and...
なるほど、クワナとのつながりがあって、それがバーのマスター親戚だったんですね。なるほど。よりクワナのなんか正体が気になるところですね。
Right, so there's more thugs that spawn. So if I get lucky here, they'll all come towards me. I got kind of weirdly unlucky there.
それで北方っていう名前が出てきたんですね。クワナの本名が北方。ありがとうございます。モータルアタック、演出まだ前回と同じように残ってますけど、致命傷なくなったとはやっぱり痛いですね。で、今、HP が赤で点滅してるから、タイガースタンスの攻撃力強化が発動している感じですね、おそらく。
Right, so we're actually going to look at the video that's on that USB drive now. Is a video of a child getting bullied by some, I say a child, he's a teenager getting bullied by some other teenagers. This is the
10代の子たちがクラスメートにいじめられている映像が USB ドライブに入っていたので、それを検証します。
End up putting him in that coma. So we're just going to quickly look around this video. And this basically incriminates a number of people, actually. So there's Yui Mamiya. If you remember this guy, this is the guy I chased earlier when he was spying on us.
で、それぞれ顔を確認しながら、こいつ知ってるぞみたいな感じで今、検証しているようです。
And we know these guys aren't who they say they are. So, and also, that doesn't look like Kitakata, even though we know that he was the teacher. So, we find out that Kuwana is actually posing as someone to get revenge on bullies, and he's actually using this video as a way of blackmailing those kids who bullied Mitsuru to help him in getting revenge on other bullies.
クワナはいじめられっ子の復讐をするためにこのビデオを送りつけていた、脅迫メールを送りつけていたということを今、奏者さんがおっしゃっています。
Then the second time, we're going to show the video that gets used to blackmail her. So we're definitely not in her best book. So You talk to Segura real quick, and then we're gonna go see Yui.
なるほど。いじめ被害者が亡くなる当日、このいじめにあって被害者が亡くなったという流れだったんですね。
Was orchestrated.
ムービーでは、ムービーは我々飛ばしたんで、あまり、その残酷な場面は見てないですけれ
If you
ども。
recognize the suit of one of them, you might recognize it as Akibe, which we chased earlier and also mentioned was in that video. That was a really weird fight. They didn't do anything. Normally they like swung 3 hits at you by that point if you give him a...
今なんか全然敵が動かなくて変なのっていうふうに、そうした普通だったらちゃんと攻撃してくるんだけどっていうふうに今言うんですけれども。間宮さん、これ痴漢の被害者ですよね。確かに痴漢事件の。合ってますか？なるほど。それで弱みを見合いたんですね。
So we're going to go say hi to Kawana, and he's going to try and justify to us that murdering people is fine as long as it's for revenge, which, you know, if you've got any kind of sane brain cell, that's just not correct at all. So we've got a few cutscenes skip here, then we have a chase section. I mentioned a chase section earlier that was kind of annoying, and if you didn't do it
で、
right,
ここでまた追跡セクション出てきますみたいなことをおっしゃっています。
So this is the Kawana chase.
クワナを追いかけます。
Kawana chase is definitely one of the more annoying ones because there's a lot.
これチェイスの中でも特にめんどくさいやつですっていうふうに奏者さん今おっしゃっていましたが、 NPC とか車とかあと自動販売機の位置が非常に邪魔。
And if you get caught on this vending machine for too long, which can happen if you're just moving a little bit too far to the right here, you actually just completely fail this and you need to wait for him to go through.
やってみると確かにカムロ町と横浜だと横浜の方が道が広いので、この狭いカムロ町でスケボーで走るのすごい難しそうですね。
Quite a lot of force in an empty crate to fly that far and also deal damage. So we're going to run around the cones.
社会的正差が致命的になる年齢まで、未成年だとそのあたりがカバーされてしまうから、それまで置いていたっていうことなんですね。
So depending on how far ahead he gets, because sometimes he's a bit far ahead, sometimes he's not as far ahead. This bucket will hit in different places, so you need to hit this bucket here. Dude, that hit him square in the butt there. But also something you have to worry about is be prepared to dodge the bucket as a physical item afterwards, because you can trip over it and look like a dummy for kicking an item and then tripping over it like right afterwards. If you do everything right, he runs down this alleyway straight away, then you can just catch up to him. And this ends the Kuwana chase. So
で、これでクワナの、チェイスは終わりです。無事、確保することができました。
So we got a quick fight with them again before we end off the chapter.
Come on.
Right, there we go.
そしてここでもう一度バトルがあって、これでこの章終わりますというふうに言いますね。
Cool, that's what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. They went too far away from it. That doesn't matter though. Cool. That was kind of okay considering I...
クワナの教え子なんです。確かにちょっとさっきちょっとクワナ教師だったけどみたいなことを奏者さんがちらっと言ってましたけれども。
Right, so
なるほど。同じように網を握られていたんですね。
something I did earlier, which you might not have noticed.
ずいぶんたくさんいじめっ子がいたんですね。そらこれだけの人たちにいじめられたら、ね、いじめの被害者さぞ辛かっただろうと思います。
In this game, the waiting sections aren't actually waiting sections like they are in some of the other Yakuza games. They're actually distance based.
今回、実家のようなシャルルは、あれですかね、安心感のシャルル、初めてですかね。なんかこういうシーンがちょろちょろっと出てくるの楽しいですね。
I'm gonna go up here and around here into Charles. There we go. Right, now we're going to talk to you, Mumia. We need to show her a few things. Murder video. She's going to get the hump with us. We're going to show her that. which is the fabric testing on the hands, and that is her train ticket. But before we do anything else, I need to go take a sleep. We're gonna hit the couch.
東くん、今回多分
I'm not even gonna
初めてですけど、前作ではすごいいい味を出してたキャラクターですよね。
trying to get around everywhere. It can be very annoying. We go.
確かにワミヤさん、さっき表情がすごい嫌な感じになってましたね。
Right, so, oh god, you don't need to skip that cutscene like that. So we're gonna go to the detention center because we need to talk to Ihara real quick. So we need to show him the murder footage real quick
そして、江原に接見しますという
and ask him about.
シーンですが、ここで証拠を見せて、状況を
So I was gonna say, because
整
his
理して
son
いく
got
感じ
bullied
ですね。
by some different people at some different people that by the different person in the murder. Oh god, that's not what I wanted to do. It's up.
You heard him.
Yeah, and if you skip that you heard him cutscene, it just repeats it over and over again, which is very funny. But yeah, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the person that he murdered was a person that bullied his son way back in the day and caused his son to commit suicide. So lots of sad stuff happening. So back to Yokohama 99. Do I remember the context? I'll remember.
大体人間関係と状況が把握できたところで、整理してきたところで、また横浜に戻って、横浜99課まで戻ります。この点と点がつながる瞬間って本当ジャッジメントシリーズすごく綺麗につながっていくので、やっていて爽快感ありますよ
Oh yeah, I
ね。
need to. Okay, yeah. I need to submit now. That one. Is that one there? So you skip that cutscene. So that's just them saying that we need to wait for some information. If you skip that cutscene there, you actually get teleported back to Yokohama 99 or close by to it, which is here. So we can just run back here without having to taxi again. Alright, so, and then I need to go talk to Watanabe again, if I remember rightly. Yes, it's Watanabe again. So we're going to wait till the evening, then we're going to go talk to Detective Watanabe again. Because we need to basically get some information from him, and he won't give it to us over the phone, so we're going to go see him IRL.
渡辺さんに話を聞いて、少し情報を整理しますという
So,
流れです。
not surprisingly, we're actually going to have a quick boss fight with Watanabe. So before I get to the boss fight, and while I'm doing the menu in the boss
でこ
fight,
こで、
Tony, have you got anything
探偵の渡辺と
while
の
I'm getting into that? You can go ahead now.
戦闘がありますというふうに、中華街のあれもいいですね、この街の作りも。
Wanted to share a little bit more information on the charity that we're raising money for, which is Alzheimer's Fondant. Alzheimer's Fondant organizes projects, camps, and events for youngsters affected in different ways due to parents or other relatives diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
このバトル結構重要なんですね。なので今まとめてスキルバーっと取っていますね。
As in their 30s. And the care cost of Alzheimer's are higher than heart disease and cancer care combined. So with all that, in addition,
QT もすごく
all of
かっこいいシーンですし、また
the cheers,
バトル面白いですけど、横浜出身者としてはこの後ろのみなとみらいの
so feel free to get your
背景の、再現度すごくいいですね。
to help us support this wonderful charity.
Thank you for that. Right, I somehow managed to get an insanely good fight there. So,
ここ QT 失敗すると海に落ちちゃうんですね。
right, so that fight there, he actually is one of the only instances in the Yakuza game where there's an insta-kill QTE. If he throws you, when he throws you over the water, if you get that QTE wrong, you just insta-die. It's incredibly hilarious. I would have shown it off, but you have to redo the menu.
今奏者さんも言ってます。ここ QT 失敗すると即死するんですけど、ちょっと笑いますっていうふうに言っ
So this is the
てますね。
infiltrate the Humi duel, which we need to get into because we need to go see if Kuwana's there. So I'm gonna wait for Yagami to stand up. Now we can go. As I said, you have to in these you can't just press sprint because it's not toggled like it is in regular movement. You have to hold it. So I'm holding sprint. Gonna throw a coin there to distract that guy.
これは警察の、捜査線を、封鎖線を越えるための、あれですかね、警備をこう、ごまかしながら、抜けていきます。
I nearly got a sword point and I nearly got seen hardcore by that guy. And that ends the stealth. Definitely stealthy right there. Definitely stealthy. Alright, so you can skip this cutscene, but you can't skip the one after it. You have to mash through this one. So, if
ステルスも本当に上手い人はさっさっと行くんですけど、そういうところをいかにスムーズできるかってきっと RETA でも
we had to do all that to get in here, but we're going to walk through this.
重要なところなんですよね。ガンダッシュでも行ける。あ、そうなんですね。
Yo, I was here the whole time, buddy boy. Right, so I mentioned at the beginning of the run, back in chapter 1, that walking upstairs is faster than walking. Well, in this you have to crouch walk, which is even slower. So going in first person and going up here saves a good few seconds.
これ一人称視点でやるとほんの数秒ですけど短くなりますというふうに奏者さん今おっしゃってました。
Then we have another parkour section we have to do. And this is the first one where you
ここから少しパルクールをやります。
So the first one, if you fall off, you don't really lose any HP or anything. In this one, if you fall off, you lose HP. Which is very
最初のところは落ちても大丈夫なんですけど、ここは落ちるとヘルスが減ってしまうので気をつけましょうというふうに。
Jump, jump, jump. Alright, if you actually sprint here, you will just fly off the edge. You have too much speed when you do that. Right, around here, you take it this little bit slow just to make sure I don't get bodied. Right, so there's actually a jump you have to do here, and the jump here is not very...
確かに壁抜けとかそういう穴をついたのっていうのはあまりないですね。きちんと仕様を理解してギリギリで動いているという感じが。
No. And that's what happens when you fall off. You get sent right back to the beginning and you lose some HP. Because the checkpoint system in these is not very good.
ここちょっとチェックポイント遠いところにあったのできついですねというふうに奏者さんもちょっと悔しそうです。でここでまたジャンプをして登って捕まり大丈夫でしたね。これ失敗する30秒ぐらいやっぱり無駄になるのできついですというふうに。
Meet up with Sugiura up here, then we get ambushed by some arcade members because of course we do. It's a Yakuza game.
上に上がったらそうですね。先ほどチャット欄でもおっしゃって方いましたけども、RK のメンバーがしっかりここで待ち構えているという。
And that guy's trying to. Oh my word! I got actually stunned. That can happen sometimes.
予想外のスタンを食らってしまいました。
Oh, I'm confused. No wonder I got confused. That's why I was spamming random directions. Because you really don't have control over yourself when that happens. Alright, cool. So now we're going to go around here. So in the next room, there's actually some guys with guns. And guns in Yakuza games are pretty scary. So normally
この後の敵はちょっと銃持ってる人がいるので注意ですということを今奏者さんおっしゃいました。前作はね、銃を持ってる人に攻撃を受けると致命傷になってしまったところもあったんですが、今回致命傷はないもののやっぱり飛び道具っていうのは怖いですね。
That's the guy with the gun right there. Just take out that guy. Oh my word. 1, 2, and then
1体目、2体目。
Cool, I just got the rush cancel, that guy. Now we've only got the boss left, which is easy. Now I can just go nuts.
で先にザクを倒してしまうことでボスと戦いやすくしています。
That was a pretty decent fight, considering I got the bad opening where all the enemies walked towards me. Right, so now we need to go quickly check on. Well, we find out that Kwana wasn't where we thought he was. He's actually in a different part of this part of the district, so we're going to go around here. We're going to go down to Ijin Street. And we're going to to go around here. Oh, there's a fight spawn there. Are they going to turn around? Yes, they are. If they walk towards you, then you have to despawn them. But if not, you're fine if you get there. If you can get there before they can see you, then you're perfectly fine, because that just despawns them talking to that guy. Alright, so now we have a nice conversation with Kuwana, where we're going to talk about, where we're going to say that Vice Minister Reiko is siding with a different organization here. Because a third... Oh.
して再度クワナとの戦いになりますと。
Alright, so this guy has counters much like Soma does. Okay, let's just go. Okay, before he kills me.
クワナ、ゲージが今回4個になるんですね。で、先ほどクワナの会話の中で、あと、副首相の話が出てきました。名前が出てきましたよね。なんか本格的に、ただのいじめとか不良の話かと思ったら、より深刻な話になっていく。
Right, sorry. What was that with Reiko? So Reiko is actually getting pressured by a government body known as Public Security, who, at this point in the story, is a Yakuza game. You know the government can't be trusted, because of course they can't. So we believe, or Yagami believes, that they basically made the arcade members to keep track of the basically remaining Yakuza around in the areas, just to make sure that they're not causing trouble for anyone. So by basically making them one
ここのところでさっき国家公安委員会の名前が出てきましたということを奏者さんがおっしゃっていました。その一方で RK の方もいろいろやってるので、どちらもちょっとちゃんとフォローしていかなきゃいけないの大変ですということをおっしゃっています。
But also because Soma's a mole, they can also use him to basically do things for their own need. So we're going to run through Cafe Brav here. And go up here. So what we're doing here is we're actually trying to prove whether Kuwana's phone has been hacked into. So we're actually gonna try and phone Reiko, or no, we're trying to prove that Reiko's phone has been hacked into. So we get Kuwana's phone to phone them, and then oh look, RK members show up to answer the phone call. So we're going to fight these guys.
ここでまた RK との戦いになるんですけれども、厚労省とか公安の課題始めると面倒くさいことになるちゃんと出てるんですけれども、今奏者さんちょっと面白いことやっていて、竜が如く、海外版ではヤクザと呼ばれてますけども、いやヤクザの話だと公安信用できないっていうのはそうなんだけどみたいな感じで、やっぱりこのシリーズだとちょっとね、大きい政府は少し怪しいことをしてるっていうのがちょっと定番なのかもしれませんね。ここで、チャプター10終わり、次チャプター11になりました。入院しているレイコさんの様子を見に行くのかな。
Alright, so now we've got to go through these three where she's talking about different things. The order doesn't matter. I like asking about her son last because normally that's where most interrogations would start. They try and be nice, but I'm like, nah, let's just go the opposite way because that's just amusing that you can go in any direction. Alright, so we're going to go quickly drop down into the base of Tesso and his boys right now to talk to Kuwana, but Kuwana's not here. If you jump at the right angle there, you actually start the cutscene a little bit earlier, otherwise you have to hit the ground and then go into the cutscene. But if you do that and you land on top of the little structure, it actually you just end up in the hitbox a little bit earlier because you slide off of it. Right, we're gonna go hit the sofa to get some rest again because that's what we need. Skip that cutscene. Alright, so right after this, we're actually going to go to the prosecutor's office. So,
厚労省の事務次官の息子、それから厚労省の女性、これレイコさんかな、昔子供をいじめられてた。 ことがあっ
Katie did,
た
which was the
の
sexual
かな。
battery. So
十数年間昏睡状態のがさっきの入院してた女の子で、女性ですか。ありがとうござい
and
ま
then
す。
we're going to show them the only piece of evidence
で、
we
今、
have is the map. As
証
I
拠を
said,
見
the
せ
map
て、
is
で、
very
状況を
important.
説
It
明
shows
す
the
ると
light
い
from
う
the cameras.
単に入ってます。ここは八神さんがすごく弁護士っていう特徴を生かした面
So
白い
damn, you're right, man.
この証拠を見せるシーンっていうのはいいなと思いま
Right,
す
so we're
ね。
going to go quickly talk to Sayuri again because we need to because Sayuri needs to help us planning with our next move. So we're going to go around here.
そう、国家公安委員会って言えば、総合庁舎の霞が関の中にあるんですけど、下の方に実は食堂がいっぱいあって、私わざわざそこの食堂でカツ丼食べて、厚労省で、公安でカツ丼ってやったことあります。
Just go talk to Hoshina. Skip that one. Do that. Right, so while I'm going through this slow section of walking with Sayuri, Tony, if you've got anything you want to talk about, please feel free to go ahead.
And I appreciate that, Rebel.
あ、
Wanted to
このチェリアま
share
たあれで
some
すね。ま
information
た
about some upcoming bid wars and
カムロ町ナンバーワンが
currently for Retro City
躍します
Rampage.
ね。
We have a bid war for the color palette, which at the moment we have My Eyes is leading with $30.
公安
followed
は公安の建物とかがあるわけじゃなくて、単純に総合庁舎があるだけなので、
and
庁舎の何かに
color palette with
縁がある仕事があったら
if
さ
you'd
らっと
like to
入れますよ、普通に。
have a
私も
say
公安に仕
in
事があ
what
ったわ
kind
け
of
じゃな
color
かっ
palette
た
we're
で
going
す、
to
その
have for
時は。
Retro City Rampage, which again is coming up in a couple of hours. Feel free to put your donations towards that. Another bid war we have coming up is for Paint the Town Red, which is a couple hours
そう
after.
です。農林水産省のね、
It's for Spare the Trader or Kill the
1
Trader.
階にある食堂は誰でも入れます。さくらって言って、で、そこで食べられるものっていうのは全部自給率が書いてあったりとか、あとはクジラが食べられるので、ぜひ霞が関に行った時は公安でカツ丼をやったり、農林水産省の食堂で食べたりしてください。が今はそれどころじゃないですね。
for prey, any percent, which currently stands at $683.
カムロ町のナンバーホステスが情報を引き出すために
$317
活躍してい
away
ます。
from the donation incentive being met. So feel free to get your donations in for that. And another donation incentive that I'm very excited for, which is Tormented Souls, any percent, an alternate outfit for Caroline currently sits at $262 out
あ、さっき3連戦のあったアクスさんですね。
with a little bit of $340 roughly to get there. So feel free, like we said, to put your donations to any one of these bid wars or donations incentives. And Rebel, back to you.
Thank you very much. So this is Akutsu again. This is technically the end of the Akutsu gauntlet that we started back in Chapter 7. So the entire point of the Sayuri bit is to basically work out that the arcade guys are in the one place that we already knew that they were. So it's just a complete waste of time for everyone involved. So I won't talk much about it because it's
さて、ここでスキルをまたまとめて取ります。 回避とかのスキルを取ってますね。それからタイガースタンス一戦を強化するようなスキルを取っています。
to other styles when we have it. So if I decided I wanted to switch to Crane now for whatever reason, because it would be more beneficial to the situation to do so, then I could do that. Right, so now that guy's there. We're gonna take out this guy. So this fight's mostly just like dealing with these guys in the order that makes sense. So, because now Akutsu is alone, we're gonna... Oh, I actually got it. And that should take him out. And there's the one guy here. If I could actually hit him, that would be useful. There we go. That's fine. Right. Damn, and the ragdoll physics are going. Right, so I actually got a pretty decent fight there. So normally that fight goes pretty wrong because the enemies are just spread out everywhere and it gets very annoying very fast.
ここなんですけども、通常の時は戦闘で敵が広がってしまうので非常に時間が無駄になりがちなんですけれども、そこを効率よく整理して倒せると非常に時間短縮できますということを 奏者さん今おっしゃっていました。アクスさん、出前終了です。オールアップです。ありがとうございました。カイトさん、前作でもなんか腹を打たれて割と復帰早かったですね。あ、これはランポくんでしたっけ
？And then you can end the investigation, and then, dude, the fight just despawns. Easy peasy. Alright, so we're gonna go to Pink Street because we need to go rest in the Yagami Detective Agency office. And then we get to get on with all the stuff that I mentioned before about going to Charles to meet Kaito. That guy, why do they always do that?
今、NPC いつもあそこで邪魔っていう理想者さんが。スケボーやるとどうしても人にぶつかりがちでっていうんですけど、そもそもカムロ町でスケボーできるだけでも十分すごいような気がしますけども。
So we're gonna go to Charles, which is Park Boulevard, to meet Kaito, who's beating some kid on an arcade machine. But before we get in there, Tsukumo wants to have a quick chat with us. Right, so we have to go to a different bar in a second. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. There's so many. But it's East Taipei Boulevard.
ここで何箇所かバーを回って情報収集するようですが、今のシャルル完全にもう実家感ありましたね。で、チャンピオン街にまず行きます。
And there's a guy in here we need to talk to, and he gives us some information about where we might be able to find some more of the arcade members. And we learned it's in the tatami room. So if you remember the tatami room from the start of the game, where we stopped Kosuke from doing his gambling, yeah, he's actually still in there doing gambling, so he didn't learn his lesson. But he's not the reason why we're here. We're here to find the arcade members, specifically Soma, who we've heard is in this building. So that's why we're here. Alright, so just do a quick fight with these guys. Alright, so I didn't mention
再び RK のメンバーが来るので、ここでさっと片付けてしまいます。
Like here they really messed me up in this fight specifically a lot of times.
ここはちょっとなんか時間取られがちに良くなるんですけれども、ということを。そうしちゃってましていました。
Quick investigation you got to do here. We got to turn on the light. Then we're going to go over here and we're going to do that. And there's a door code there. So you're actually meant to go find the door code, but the door code is the same every time. So what you can do is you can just go.
これでドアコード、明かりをつけてドアコードを入れるんですけれども、これはもう分かっている状況で。そしてまたちょっとここから長いパルクールになります。さっきちょっとね、パルクールで一回落ちてしまったので、そういうのが起きないといいんですが。
Alright, so we're going to go over here. We actually have to go into this building here, and into this window here, because we're looking for a way into the building, so we have to go investigate every opportunity, so we're going to go. If you actually go over there, Yagami, thank you. Alright, back out the building. Skip through this text. Alright, jump over here. And you can actually skip dropping down on the bars here by just going here and then just dropping down. It saves like a second to do that.
今空のボトル拾いましたけど、こういう細かいアイテム、製薬のアイテム面白いの多いですよね。日本語版だとエナジードリンクの空き瓶でしたっけ？なるほど、番号は2つあって、宝箱とそれからドアを開けるのがあるんですね。多分ここはあといくつかパルクールのセクションあるんですけど、これが多分一番長いんじゃないかなと思いますと今奏者がおっしゃっていました。
get my grip gauge back. Because if you run out of grip gauge,
で、どこかでちょっと休憩を取らないと、グリップゲージが
go back to your latest checkpoint.
戻らない、足りなくなってしまうので、休憩を取る必要があります。という
So
ことを
we're
おっしゃ
gonna
ってま
quickly
した。
hop down here, just wait for it to recharge.
ここですね。
Down
で
we go.
グリップゲージを少し回復させてからまた登ります。
So if I'd grabbed the grip gauge, I actually would have been able to just climb up here straight away. And you normally end with about like 2 or 3 seconds left of your grip gauge before you run out. So we're gonna come up here.
今のくらいでやると、2、3秒グリップゲージに余裕があるくらいでたどり着きます。
So we're gonna deal with that guy. There we go. That was a pretty good fight.
で、ここもちょっと効率よく戦闘を済ませることができました。
Our friends up to the building here, which is actually this rope here.
で、ここにロープがあるので、これをロープを使って、
because it's rendered in engine, and as I said earlier, if it's got the little main story icon up there, it's not actually a cutscene.
海藤さんと東さんが登ってきます。
Alright, so as soon as Kaito starts talking, we skip the cutscene. There we go. And now we get
海藤さん今何か話し始めたんですけど、さっさとスキップします。そしてここからステルスセクションの開始です。
green box we can jump over here, which is right here. We have to be careful here because this guy could be facing the wrong way. He is. Now we're going to coin him.
で、男が逆を向いた瞬間にコインを投げてよそ見をさせて、首絞めで、ちょっとお休みいただきます。まあ夜なんでね、寝てもらいましょう。早寝お早起き大事です。
meant to be an English dub. Like in character, they still think they're speaking Japanese, which is very funny.
なんかこれ一部のキャラクターは英語版にしてても日本語喋るのかな、それはちょっと面白いですねって奏者さんが言ってました。
In the little mini map, there's a little red triangle over to the left. You have to wait for him to turn around and come at you. So I've saved 2 smoke bombs specifically for this because it speeds it up by quite a lot. So by aiming here, just mashing RT, you throw that at the earliest possible point.
ここはすごくエイムが大事ですっていうふうにおっしゃいながら普通にね、奏者さん今出てきた瞬間にポンって当てましたけどね。
So I can actually use both of my smoke grenades without really caring. We're gonna go over here, throw that there.
なんかしれっと本当に完璧な動きをするからすごいですよね。
And that's the end of all the stealth sections. We don't got to do any more. No more of them. No more of them.
はい、おやすみなさい。
God damn, some of them are very annoying.
ここでステルスは終了です。
Right, so as I said, this is all to get back into the tatami room. So last time we went in through.
そして畳の部屋に戻りますって言ってましたけど、この最初のあれですね。和風の部屋のことを畳ルームっていうふうに言ってたんですね。
There's a bunch of arcade members. Sadly, Soma isn't here, so
別に畳でもなかったりしますけど。
you could just blow up an entire group of enemies behind you by doing that. That's the end of that fight. Very, very good fight there.
式の間、なるほど。日本語だとそういう表現されてるんですね。まあ、向こうだったら畳ルーム、正式名かちょっとわからないですけど、わかりやすい。敵を畳むルームはちょっとうまいですね。
So right there, if I remember correctly, or at some point within the next chapter in a bit, Reiko Kusumoto's son, Mitsuru, actually wakes up, so it actually triggers her to, you know, give in to the pressure of the public security guys, and basically try and sell out Kuwana. So the final couple of bits of this is us trying to not only get
で、これで、クワナが尻尾切りされそうになりますっていうことを今言ってますね。 けれども、クワナがいてきてくれないと、我々が問題を解決する部分ためにはもう彼は必要なので、なんとか彼を守らなければいけません。
But this one just takes you straight there. It just doesn't care. It just goes, hell yeah, have fun. Alright, cool. So now this one here, this is a wait, but you actually want a taxi to right here. As I said, the waits in this are distance based.
で、ここでタクシーに乗って異人街まで行ってしまいます。
But this one here, you want to go here because this is actually where you need to go after the wait. So by taxiing straight here, you don't need to taxi again. Because we need to go and say hi to Tesso, our boy Tesso. So we need to ask Tesso about some stuff.
で、ここでテッソー君にお話を聞きます。
Without really being seen. So what we're going to do is we're going to put on a disguise and go into the sewers. And then as soon as we get out of the sewers, we're going to take a taxi, because why would I do anything else? Oh, I wanted to do the bartender, but I guess I pressed the wrong button. So we're going to be worker for a minute again. Something funny, you can use any of the costumes.
そして久々に変装が来ましたね。
Yes, you can turn into a vampire to be inconspicuous. Because of course that's how it works. No one will ever know that that you are Yagami when you're dressed as a vampire.
そういえば前作でビジュアル系の人の変装をするっていうのがいくつかの変装のオプションの中になったんですけれども、その時にビジュアル系の吸血鬼の格好をしても変装になって追跡とか気づかれないっていう話を今ちょっと取り上げています。変装ってロストジャッジメントでもあるんですか？ちょっとね、あれシュールで、普通だったらね、スーツに着替えたりとか、それからさっきの作業着に着替えたりするっていうのはあるんですけれども、あるんですね、ブラム様。あれちょっとシュールで楽しくていいですよね。
Right, so this guy when he's in his second phase, he pulls out a gun. And as I've established, gun enemies are actually scary, so we're going to take him out as fast as possible. That was a really good fight. That was an insanely good fight. Everyone just kind of got in the way at the right times there. And that's the end of chapter 12. So we're going into the finale now. So this is the final chapter of the game.
これで、12章まで来ました。12章最終章ですというふうになっています。今、源田先生の名札見えてましたけど、このシリーズの、あれですよね、ナレーションが日本語だと源田先生なんですよね。あれもなかなか味を出してて、ドラマらしいところですごくいいなというふうに思います。本当にこのゲームってドラマっぽい演出と、それからゲームの演出がすごいいい感じで調和してて面白かったです。
I'm just buying some additional abilities that can come in useful. They're not always useful, but they can be useful. Rising Vortex is basically required sometimes, so.
そう、源田先生ご本人、最初はこのゲーム、正直中脇さんね、いや、どうかなって思って出演されたみたいですけど、最終的には大変気に入ってくださったということを、ね、おっしゃってたと聞いています。
Yeah, you go pretty fast in Tiger. So that's why we did it. I need to go to Camarocho. So I need to go to the Gendalore office.
そして源田法律事務所に行きます。そうですね、AGDQ でもやってますけど、今回も走っています。半年でね、これだけイベントに出るって大人気だなと思います。
If he gets charged with the sexual battery, he basically gets away with the murder with how the crime system works in Japan.
なるほど、エンプで回すると攻撃速度が上昇するスキル。
Because he would have served his time for that crime and then he could have come out and said he did that.
やっぱりそこの切り替えがすぐできると、このシリーズのバトル楽しいですよね。
I don't want to be the person that tries to state about stuff I don't even know about. But that's what this game tries to imply.
そして、留置場に行きました。
He still has the murder weapon. And you find out in a second that,
この人が殺人を犯したんなら、その、凶器がどこかにあるはずだということで、今、あれをしました。会話しましたね。
They went and said some goodwill prayers and stuff for his son that committed suicide after being bullied too much. And it turns out he hid the murder weapon with the shrine. So they went and prayed to it with.
結局最初の子供というのはいじめられて、その後で自殺してしまった。 その問題を、
I don't know why they do that sometimes. They just jump backwards. Right,
解
we
決
go
したい
ahead
というの
to
が
the
今
wall
回
hang
あれだっ
out.
たん
We
で
can
すけ
go
ど
right
も。
to them.
あ、凶器がまだだねっていう、そういうことだったんですね、あそこ
We
は。
talk to them a little
あり
bit.
がとうご
Just
ざい
some
ます。
information. This doesn't
それ
look
で、
too much.
そのいじめっ子を殺したという凶器がどこにあったのかというのを今確認しているわけですね。
We get to stay the night, and then that's so. I've already done the Camarocho point of no return, so we can no longer go to Camarocho. So the taxi option for Camarocho is actually gone from our taxi list. So taxi list gets a bit shorter, so we're going to go there. And now we actually get to our Yokohama point of no return already.
日本語の怪しい看板とか、これ映画でも聞いたんですけれども、最近ハリウッドにも日系あるいはアジア系のスタッフが非常に増えてきて、で、昔は本当に怪しい言葉になってないような看板だったのがきちんと言葉になってる、一応筋が通るような看板の文字になったりっていうんで、大体その辺は映画業界とかあるいはゲーム業界、日本以外のところでもすごく精度が上がってきてるっていうような話を聞いたことがあります。まあもちろん龍が如くシリーズ、ジャッジメントシリーズは日本で作っているので、その看板なんかは正解なんですけども、多分みんな楽しんで見てるんじゃないかなと思います。
Basically go save them from the situation they've managed to find themselves in. So we get a cool little fight cutscene here of the boys doing some fighting. Each of them kind of showing off their different way of fighting. Like Shigeru is much more athletic. Kaito's like a wrestler throwing people around. Hisagi's much more kind of civilized, and then you got Yagami at the back doing kung fu. Right, so this fight coming up, even Tsukumo kind of helps you a little bit because he has a drone outside, and the drone starts throwing in smoke pellets and stuff to basically stun the enemies. And by stunning the enemies, if the smoke pellets come out, we know the fight is kind of not gone the way.
神谷町のいかがわしい看板の怪しさ、これはどうでしょうね。でも、
So hopefully this goes well.
パリなんかだと、いわゆるキャバレーのあるピガールのあたりの看板もなんかああいう怪しい感じがして、で、たまに、日本語の怪しい看板もあったりするんで、割と共通点はあるかもしれないですね。で、不良生徒を、今さっき捕まったような子たちかな。が餌にされてきたので、ここでも、あれですね、先ほど、杉浦くんなんかも来てたし、仲間のいる状態でのバトル、いよいよなんか熱い感じのファイナルになってきますね。そうですね、もうじゃファイナルチャプターには入っていると先ほど奏者さんおっしゃっていました。
Oh, okay, my EX Immortal just destroyed me there because I was not expecting to get hit by that. Cool, that was a really good fight. As you can see, when everything goes well in Tiger, all the enemies fly into each other and they all do they basically damage each other by flying into each other. So that's locked us into basically the finale stuff now. So now we get to do our normal judgment court case part. So Yagami goes back to being a lawyer for literally like a few seconds.
これで、八神が再び弁護士として、久しぶりにスーツを着て、
we doubt the victim's credibility.
裁判に向かいますね。で、ここで全ての真実を明かしていくという流れかと思います。で、今、録音を使ったりとか。この裁判所のシーンって前作もですけど結構長いですよね。でもすごく綺麗に話がまとまっていく、すごく気持ちいいカットシーンだと思いますので、ぜひ私も自分でプレイしたいなと思います、これ。もう見てるだけで楽しい。そしてまた RK のメンバーに襲われたので、
Again, I'm just trying to make sure I get enough heat here to do the stuff afterwards. So this is the most optimal combo to get heat quickly. Cool. Right, so I don't want to use heat until the final fight, the final wave, if I can help it. I also want to try and save it altogether, so it sometimes is useful to just not use it. Cool, and do that with that guy. That's nice. There should be. That should be last guy. Oh no, it's gonna ask me to take out more guys over here. Cool. Easy peasy. Right, so this is the last wave. There's a guy with 2 HP bars here, but he goes down pretty quickly.
このウェーブを、倒せば、この戦闘はクリアです。
Attack buffs, especially from Tiger.
タイガースタンス一戦の、攻撃力バフを使って、サクサクと倒していきます。
Now, just the boys have not done very well. Sometimes the boys do really well here, but sometimes they do what Kaito did just there and just throw them for no reason.
ここ仲間がすごく効率よく相手を倒してくれるときとあんまり力にならないお客さんになっているときとあるので、結構そこで戦闘の時間が変わったりしますみたいな話をしています。
Right, so now we're actually locked into the final set piece now. So the final set piece now, we go from that straight into a fight with like 100 people. There's one enemy in this at one point that comes in and he has a gun, and as I said, guns are the top of the tier list.
ここで大量の敵と戦うんですが、銃を持っている敵が途中から入ってきます。なのでここをそこ気をつけて戦っていかなければなりませんというふうに今奏者が言ってました。
And you can cancel out at any point, so you can get to dealing with this guy pretty quickly, and then you can cancel back into that and start going nuts with this again.
本当敵ここ多いですね、数が。
Oh, I accidentally hit my own boy there. Alright, cool.
これ何度か途中でチャットの人がおっしゃったかと思うんですけども、すごく八神さんのヘルスバーが短いですよね。これを強化して伸ばしてダメージ受けやすくするっていうのが基本だと思うんですけど、この少ない中でダメージが要はたくさん受けない中でこれだけの数をサクサクさばいていくっていうのは本当に奏者さんの腕がすごいなというふうに思います。クワナを探しに行ったんですね。バーのマスター、確かクワナさんの、ご親戚だったんですもんね。
Oh, missed him. That's fine. Don't worry about it. So now I'm just trying to gain meter so I can do because that's the case, I'm actually going to use a stamina.
ちょっと今不安なので回復しましたね。
Cool, so as I said, the Tiger attack buff gets carried over because I've got the 3rd level of in Tiger. So there's a guy with a pipe somewhere. There he is. So after this guy, and you can take out a few more.
今鶴の、スタンス、演武のスタンスで、スウェイで避けて、バフを受けていきますということを奏者さんおっしゃってました。
Lots of damage, even on easy, and I don't have any HP boost because I want to try and crit build at the end of this.
やはりこれヘルスを取らないというのはチャートでそういうふうに意図的にしているようです。他のスキル等を優先して。なので低いヘルスの中で、戦っていくというふうな状況になっていますというふうに今奏者さんおっしゃってました。で、中ボスのこの敵を少し集中して先に倒してしまいます。これ全員倒せば終わりだと思います。これで最後の相手を倒して終わりです。で、これで建物の中に入るとまたいくつかバトルがあります。で、ここは開放射器を使う敵が出てくるということです。なのでそこを気をつけてやらなければなりません。
Like there he is, there's the guy with the flamethrower. Just taking out those guys. I'm trying to gain as much meter as possible, and Crane's pretty good at that. Okay, Tiger, just to make sure these guys.
で、ここは攻撃力確実に敵を仕留めるためにスタンスを、一斉に変えました。
Cool, there's the last two guys. There we go, that's pretty good.
このスピードは悪くないで
Go
す。
through this door, and then
いい感じ
we're
です。
actually
で、
gonna
こ
get
このドアを
into
抜けると、
the only other like we have another investigation after a fight, and then we have another bit of parkour, and then we have the
またちょっと
second
調査のシーンがあったり、それからパルクール
bit.
とかが
I
こ
did
の
the
後待っ
first
てる
one
んです
like
けれ
2
ども、
hours ago, and now we get to do the second one. Okay, this has worked out way better than normal.
これいつもよりもいい感じで今攻撃決まってるそうです。
And I want to just take out this guy real quick.
で、この相手をさっと倒して、
That's actually fine. There we go. That worked out perfectly.
ここの戦闘すごい
Get really
綺麗に
good
決まりました。
on your positioning. You want to end as close to this door as possible, which doesn't always work in your favor.
できるだけドアの近くに本当はバトルを終わりたかったんですけども、必ずしもね、そういい感じに敵が動いてることは限らないので、ちょっと今回はうまくいきませんでした。
Basically, we get told, yo, go parkouring. We'll be alright for a minute. Which is what we're going to do. We're going to go parkouring. Alright. Wall run. The second time I've had the wall run. Sometimes it gives you a tutorial for the wall run there again. I don't know why it does that. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
でここでたまになんかまたチュートリアルが出たり出なかったりすることがあるんですけど、ちょっとどういう仕組みかけでチュートリアル出るかどうか分かってないですと。
So we unlock that gate. Now
で、ここでドアの鍵を開け、
So
で、ピッキングをします。
2, 3. There we go. There's lockpicked. Alright, so we're gonna run through here a little bit. Hisagi and Kaito kind of get caught up at the back there with some more guys. So me and
で、ここのピッキングもサムタウンはなくなりましたよね、以前と比べてね。
go up here and
そういう意味でも、やっぱり1よりもシステムすごく快適になってるなっていうのは、こういう細かいところでも感じられます。
I'm gonna skip a little bit of the free running stuff by dropping down a area which you're normally not
で、
supposed
ここ
to.
でパルクールがま
Free
た始
time
ま
in
り
there,
ま
which
す。
is actually useful. I need that in a minute. So drop down here. That skips
いや
like
このリズムの良さはパルクールですね。
some other stuff. Then we're gonna go around here.
気持ちよくジャンプしたり飛んでいきますね。
As soon as we do that, we can do that. Alright, so what I'm going to try with these guys is there's actually some enemies at the back there that try and spawn. So I'm going to try and apparently whiff. Alright, so I'm going to go back there. Then I'm going to run in here.
ここで、後ろ側にここですね、別の敵が出てきて、後から追加されるので、そっちを先に倒してしまいます。
This is not going as well as I would like because all the enemies got away from me, but that's fine.
ちょっと敵が逃げたんで、少しね、無駄が多くなってしまいますが、まあ問題なく解決できるでしょう。
This fight for a later fight, which is actually fine.
で、キック1回、2回、3回。でこれでクリアです。
Right, so I've been trying to keep around the same level of HP because I actually want to drop down into red HP in this next fight because it makes it a little bit it makes it a little bit easier. But then also I want to
ここわざとちょっとヘルスをレッドにしてるみたいですね。それによって攻撃力を上げることで次の戦闘を有利にしようとしています。
for the fights after that. Specifically, there's a couple of fights with Soma where I actually want to be in red HP because you do way more damage. Obviously, as I've said, that we try and crit build right at the end to basically speed up the final bosses. Right. Going up here. Right.
ヘルスがレッドになって最終ボスの連戦に挑戦したい。その方が攻撃力上がるからというふうに奏者さんおっしゃったんですけど、ファイナルボスイズって複数形だったので、これ連戦っていうことですよね。
So if you fall down here, you have to deal with a lot of stuff, and then you have to go through the entire parkour section that I'm doing all over again, which is very annoying. So we try not to get too involved with repeating this section over because it is very long.
ここ途中で落ちてしまうと、またパルクール最初からやらなきゃいけなくて大変なロスになります。なのでちょっとそれを避けるために 効率よくやりたいと、確実に決めていきたいと思います。
So, gonna get over here. So sometimes you run at this wall, you won't get the raw one, but I got it there, which is all good. Don't have to worry
ここ
about.
まではいい感じで来られていま
I've
す。
seen many people get destroyed by Dragon Engine shenanigans there. You drop at the
なんかこの辺でドラゴンエンジンのトラブルがあって、なんか失敗することがある人いるんですけど、みたいなことを今、奏者さんが。
A ton of heat back. So this is an unskippable cutscene where the boys found a forklift. So we get to see the boys with the forklift like knock down some doors real quick.
でフォークリフトで増援が来て、このままドアをぶち抜いていこうっていう狙いです。もうどんどん敵が出てくるからキリがないよなっていったところで、ちょうど最高のタイミングで増援が来ました。
So we have this dude here who calls us a bunch of clowns because, you know, we drove a forklift through a door. There he goes. So I'm going to get an attack boost from him, and then I'm actually going to run away from him because I want to go deal with some of the regular enemies before I deal with him. Because the regular enemies are more...
今このボスがちょっと下町なまりの英語喋ってるような気がするんですけど、気のせいですかね。ちょっとこもるような感じの。こうヤクザもの特有のあれをそういうなまりで表現してるのかなって今聞いてて思いました。
Okay, just because I'm gonna die if I don't do that.
これですね、今そうですね、チャット欄でも言ってくださってる方いますけれども、ヘルス赤の状態なので、火力がものすごく上がっています。で、ボスを倒したので、残りのタコを倒しに行きます。
Let's take out that guy. You have to be careful against these guys because they can stun you very easily. Oh, that was insane. That was so good at the end. Right, so
ドラム缶を持っている敵スタンされる可能性があるんで注意しなきゃって言いながらもすごい綺麗に決まりました。南部なまりじゃないです。もっと都市の下町なまりな感じがしました。すみません。私もアメリカの英語のなまりあまり詳しくないので、なんとなく感覚なんですけれども、このあたり詳しい方いたらぜひ解説してください。
And as I said,
ここで、相馬とのバトルになります。これも、いやでもかなりヘルス、細いところまで行ってるんで、怖いですね。できればここでもうヒール使わないで回復せずに決めたいというふうに奏者さんはおっしゃっています。
So we actually get to, you know, see Soma one more time, and I think it plays Viper again if I remember correctly, which is his fight theme, which is one of the coolest fight themes in the game. So it really goes with the horror aesthetic of this man. Right, here we go. Right, he's in the fridge, so because of course, where else would he go? In we go. Knife comes out the fridge. Oh, there's Viper. Such a good song. Right, so as I said, I'm in red house.
ここが最後のセーブポイントなんですね。ということはこれが本当に最後のバトルですね。なんか冷凍庫の中だからこの寒さだけで残りのヘルス消えちゃいそうな気もするくらいのわずかな体力で今戦ってますけども。でもここ最後の最後が1対1っていうのはちょっとかっこいいですね。今までは雑魚の中にボスがいるっていう感じですけれど。
And then I want to quickly go use items. I want to use Tarna, Toughness Z, and Warriors on slot. So the Tyrant is so I have max heat going into the next fight. The Warrior's Onslaught is so I don't have to enter the menu again. Because, as I said before, we're going to use the Warrior's Onslaught to cheese a fight. We're going to cheese the final boss by using the Warrior's Onslaught. Because why would we fight the final boss when we could cheese him? So, sadly I had to heal myself out of red HP because I ran out of toughness lights. So, I won't save the most amount of time on the final boss here. So, as you can imagine, the final boss is with Mr. Kuwana here. So we have a nice unskippable cutscene before.
If you guys don't back off, then I will.
We basically get like their individual views about what's happening, and then we get to punch it.
で、ここ、各キャラクターの考えの違いがぶつかり合う
Like they do in Yakuza.
シーンですっていう話をここでしています。
Right.
This one is my fight, guys.
Right. So, after this, there's the first phase, there's a cutscene, then there's the last bit of the fight. So it shouldn't be. So time is coming up after this fight, obviously. It comes up on actually a pretty cool point. So Kaito here says something very stupid about potentially murdering people being alright. So I don't know why he says that. So the whole thing that's happening here is Kuwana actually has a bomb set, and the phone is the trigger. And
クワナここには実は爆弾を仕掛けていたんですけれども、それを投げ捨てて、戦う。そうですね。彼が、このシナリオ上のラスボスになります。で、ここで戦薬使ってますね。
Right, so that's the first phase done. So one of the things I actually do like about this fight is how, in a lot of fights in Judgment, actually, especially this one, even in the first game, they use very dynamic fight locations and such, so they can actually do some cool things. So here they're like jumping.
この戦闘すごくロケーションが美しく使われてて楽しいですというふうに奏者さんおっしゃっていました。確かに立体的な倉庫のこの作りなんかを生かした映像になってて。
As I did in the first phase, we're gonna hit him again, but instead I'm going into EX just so I can get a bit more damage because I have because one of my pieces of equipment gives me 30% more damage when I'm in. Cool, and time is there. There we go. So that was Lost Judgment. Hopefully people in the audience enjoyed.
これで、ロストジャッジメントの本当に最後の審判が下る瞬間です。
And a lot of people did put stuff into this game, and it's been pretty cool watching it evolve from what we thought was kind of a.
これでタイマーもストップになりました。お楽しみいかが明けたでしょうか。奏者さん、ヤクザ、龍が如くゲームとも共通したところがあって非常に面白いゲームですということをおっしゃっていました。
So if you ever want to try getting into this series, there's a lot of resources to do so. Just skimming through the cutscenes so we don't get DMCA'd. So
もしこのゲーム走ってみたいという方がいれば資料もたくさんありますので、歓迎しますというふうに奏者さんおっしゃっています。ということで、ロストジャッジメント、裁かれざる記憶、2%イージーのカテゴリーで走っていただいた、レベルドラゴン95さんお疲れ様でした。記録は2時間39分26秒でした。ちょっとね、パーソナルベストが2時間36分32秒なので、ちょっとパーソナルベストには及ばなかったんですけれども、なかなかいい記録で非常にかっこいいアクションシーンなんかを見せてもらえて、非常に楽しかったと思います。今回、このチャンネルでは現在スウェーデンのマルメで開催されているチャリティー RT イベント ESAW2022 の公認未来配信を行っています。本イベントに寄せられた寄付はアルツハイマーとはじめとする認知症の研究と治療法の開発を支援しているスウェーデンアルツハイマーライダーに寄付されます。今回のイベントのこのアルツハイマーっていうのはね、前作でも、ジャッジアイズでも重要なキーになったキーワードで、人類の多くの人がこれから影響されるであろうと考えている、あられている病気です。なので、この研究が進むように、皆さんでもこの ESA の配信をご覧になって、あるいは寄付してみようかなって方は、ぜひ寄付もやってみてください。それでは、ここでの司会交代いたします。ここまではカルミナが、拙い司会ですが、お伝えいたしました。これからもまだまだ、週末まで続きますので、ESAW2022 お楽しみください。ありがとうございました。
100% of the proceeds during ESAwinter 2022 will be donated to Alzheimerfonden, including the proceeds from the fabulous event hoodie and the 3 lovely limited edition shirts shown on stream right now. Speedrunstore.com.
To Boston, lives in a world she's lost in, victim of compromise. He's staring at her Aberdeen heart, London eyes, Glasgow bones. She's whistling the catacombs, a paradox.
It's not certain what causes Alzheimer's, but plaques that are disturbing the neurons and their signal pathways are the prime suspects. The only way we're able to eliminate these plaques is through more funding for research discoveries. Help us reach the donation goal of $100,000, and together we can beat Alzheimer's and say game over.
Hey, this is Don Donny. Today I'm gonna teach you how to send the adorable little Yarny to the Shadow Realm. Towards the end of Mountain Trek, there's this plastic bag that you're supposed to use to just glide down to the ground below. And at a certain point it deactivates and can't be grabbed anymore. You then move on, grab the next checkpoint, release these logs, and use them to reach the end of the level. However, if you instead do this motion of continuously re-grabbing the bag, it for some reason will gain height, and you can avoid this deactivation trigger. You'd think we'd be free to fly forever now, but this is unraveled, and pretty soon we run out of yarn, and we have no choice but to fall down. Luckily, we get past the otherwise unskippable checkpoint, so next, we release the logs and let them just kill us. We do the bag thing again, and because we started at the wrong checkpoint, the logs haven't reset, so we maneuver the bag into the box, quickly head out and get more yarn. And then grab the bag before it escapes. We can now fly past the end of the level and into the Shadow Realm. Here we get to see all kinds of visual wackiness, like the smudged out landscape